Hello, welcome everybody to another episode of Four Corners Legacy Podcast. I'm your host, Valley Uno.
Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Diesel Locomotive.
Hello, I'm Tusav.
And it's Miss Mai joining you for another episode of Four Corners Legacy Podcast. Happy Sunday, everybody, and welcome to the show.
Yes. How's everybody doing today?
Doing
Good. Doing good.
We got off to a late start, but we're here and we're doing it.
Yes. Happy to be here. Happy for another opportunity to share with my siblings and spread information to everybody. It's what we do, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
I like everybody's backgrounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we keeping it to the roots again this week, addressing some stuff from fairly modern history with the Black Panther Party, Afeni Shakur and the role that she played in the case of the Panther 21, where charges were brought up against 21 individuals from the Black Panther Party, and that the case was ultimately won in behalf of Black Panthers. And we're going to talk a little bit about that and Afeni and Tupac and some of the other key people in that situation, and also just the civil rights movement as a whole. So yeah, we can get right into it.
Yeah, so I think we decided to do our show based off of all of us watching the Dear Mama show the series, the Dear Mama series that was on FX, and it was also available on Hulu platform as well. We had tapped into it a little bit, but we hadn't all got to watch every single episode. But I thought it was a lot of key notes that needed to be talked about. So I felt like we should do a show about it. I'm excited today to share with everybody what I thought about the show and listen to everybody else's opinions about it.
Yes, I really, really enjoyed it. I binge watched it straight through. And Afeni Shakur, she was so intelligent. And that's why we know Tupac was intelligent. That's why he was so intelligent and well above his age group, his wisdom, for his age.
Right.
Yeah, and
it was almost like he had been here before. You know what I mean? Because especially if you base it off of what we hear or what we see that's going on in the world, he was already talking about these kind of things. Speaking up a Black president before there was a Black president, speaking on police brutality, which we know has been going on for a long time, which was a huge part of what I gathered from off of watching the series. There was two major takeaways for me. One of the takeaways was that Afeni had explained during the series, or especially at the end, that she wasn't just a mother who lost her son. She was pleading to all the mothers who have lost their sons as well. And speaking on Black crime, speaking on all of the issues that are still very relevant in the community.
Yeah, and it's ironic because Tupac, if you know anything about Tupac, he was very radical and pro-Black, from the beginning of his career. And then after he got shot, he aimed his aggression towards his own people, which went directly against his actual belief system.
Exactly.
Because he felt like he didn't know who to trust. Because one thing about our race, people will sell themselves for some money, or to get at somebody. That's as it showed in the docuseries, the infiltrator that helped assassinate Malcolm X was one of
he was an undercover cop.
Yes.
One of them was an undercover cop. He's the one that gave mouth to mouth to Malcolm X to give him his last breath.
Mm-hmm.
And then he went to the Black Panther Party after that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Right. I wanted to dig into a little bit of that in regards to COINTELPRO and all of that also too. I thought was very significant in showing our people today just the lengths that politicians and America will go to bring the demise of the people because they don't want the word to get out. What they'll do to make sure that we don't spread the word. So I think it's important for what we're doing on the show today because we want to spread the word that they prevented from people sharing years and years ago.
Well, the word is simple. It's unity.
It is.
We need to be united as a people. If we ever want to see any real progress happen, it wouldn't matter if I got $1 billion tomorrow. I can't do it alone. I can't change circumstances alone with my $1 billion.
Yeah.
And so blacks, we've been trained that if we get rich and we put ourselves and our family in there, then that's what it takes to end the struggle. But then here it is, your son or your daughter gets killed by a stray bullet. There's still no escaping the circumstances that we in just by handling your part only without the unity. You get what I'm saying? Without the unity, it don't matter how much hustling and bustling we do and how much we got our shit straight over here. We still have the circumstances falling in our yard.
Right. Right.
And that's what, you know, Pac addressed that at one of his speeches that he gave where it was the older people and they told him not to cuss and all this other kind of stuff. And he's like, you know, me cussing has nothing to do with us being there for this our younger generation, showing them the way.
He shouldn't have been triggered like that, though. He did too much, if you ask me.
And there was so that's what the show also where my empathy kicked in, and it was based off of the how he started and how he finished, and how your circumstances can, if you allow them to, will define your character. So initially he came out in his whole thing was about, all his raps were about being, you know, where we should be politically, where we should be as a people. It inscribed unity. A lot of his music came from that base, but slowly but surely things kept tearing away at him as a being. If you take the incident in Marin City where the child was shot, when he had came back, he was eager to come back home, but was he welcomed by his community? Were there jealous people out there and then they wanted to blame that on him? Also, he had gotten beaten up by the Oakland Police Department. I feel like things just continued to happen to him over and over again, which hardened his heart, therefore hardened his music and changed who he really wanted to be portrayed as. Would you guys agree?
I agree. Pac was very sensitive. He took everything eternally, and once he started feeling like it was him against the world, that meant less sleep. He was still in his own frame of mind, but when you don't get enough sleep and you're constantly got shit worried in your head, it changes who you are.
I think one of the things that stood out for me looking at it, you know, because after all these years, obviously, you know, I look at it differently by being a older man. I think the biggest downfall that he had is something that's common to young people, in that he lacked emotional intelligence. Sure, he was an intelligent individual, but he lacked the emotional intelligence. And we could see that in a lot of the way he responded to situations, the things he would say, like the one Dee's mentioned where he said he did too much at that particular event where they had him speaking. All of that is an indication of somebody's lack of being able to manage their emotions and in a way that their emotions aren't leading the charge. But again, he was in his early 20s. You know
That's
what
what
I
I
mean?
was gonna say. That's what I was gonna say. I
I
was
think
gonna
we
say.
were giving him too much credit based on his intelligence and not allowing him to still be the young man that he was.
And see,
Right.
the whole thing with they said that's what Afeni was going to do when she went to court to when she was in court. They said, no, we can't have her stand up and represent us because she's going to get in her feelings. But she didn't get in. She
Her
did
life circumstances forced her to grow up.
right.
Well,
Emotionally.
She knew that
right.
that was her only shot. If she went in there and acted a crazy ass motherfucker, then it was gonna be a wrap for her in the 21. That's
Yeah.
it.
Right. And the thing about it, I think that when we look at our own selves at 25 versus where we are today, our mentality would have been a lot like his as far as like, fuck it, there's all this pressure bust pipes. You know what I mean? So I feel like that explains why he behaved the way he did. And then some things are circumstantial. Your circumstances are gonna help, they're either gonna make or break you. The situations that you're in are going to determine whether you're in a good mood, determine if you are listening appropriately, or as you say, just flat out responding without thinking about it. But at 25 and having to have the huge responsibility that they were trying to shove down his throat of being the leader of the new Black Panthers, I think that was a lot for him. And then to also have the responsibility of being connected to the record labels and getting the music out, he wanted to use that as a door opening so that he could then do all the things that he want. But it never got to that because, of course, we all know some of your circumstances and your situations, and one poor choice can cost you.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, he was famous how people are famous now back then.
Right.
Without Instagram,
Right.
without Facebook, without all that shit. Everything he did was fucking front page news when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that transpired with him was worldwide news immediately.
Mm-hmm.
He was,
And that's because
he was a real deal superstar. It wasn't no crap or nothing. He was, because the reason why I'm saying that is because a lot of the youngsters get it misconstrued and they think Tupac didn't have the impact that these rappers today have, and he had that times 10.
He definitely had it. He definitely had it. And you want to know how, because you just take a look at what's going here on 30 years later. The ones who are relevant today, will they be relevant in 30 years? You know what I mean? So that's the thing. Also, that we have to look at the bigger picture. And certain situations, again, I'm gonna say they're gonna change you, they're gonna shape you, they're gonna harden you if you allow it to. Even when I think about just knowing that once Dan Quayle and all the other politicians started spewing out, there was a court case where a Black man said, oh, I was listening to Tupac and that's what made me shoot the police, you know.
Yeah.
And those kind of circumstances that affected him greatly. And the fact that it was his name was Shakur, he already had a target on his back from the gate.
Well, I think the reason why those kind of statements even hold the weight that they do in society is because the reality is we live in a pussy ass society. Everybody wants to find a reason to blame someone else for how fucked up shit is. And by them blaming somebody else, they can go right back to the little individualistic existence where they go to work and take care of their house, their yard, and they're blind to everything around them because they have allowed themselves to believe that they have no individual impact on the overall circumstances when they do. It's easier to blame Tupac.
Yeah. It's easier to blame rap music altogether. And, and another thing they were saying that even back then, and I believe that it's still current now, but back then, 70% of the music purchased was being purchased by
white
Americans. Yeah, by whites.
Latinos and Asians.
Right. So, like one of the statements that somebody had made, he said, if you want to just take Hood 101, you just buy you 10 CDs at the time and then listen to all the music. And now all of a sudden you have a little bit of insight into the culture, right? But mind you, the parents to those people are judges, they're politicians, they're doctors. They, like they said, they don't want to spend all day throwing niggas in jail and then come home and their kids are listening to the very kind of people they despise as music.
And that's what I mean. That's what I mean when I say the individualistic mindset, the police brutality that they're upholding as a judge, the false cases that are being presented on people that they're upholding as a judge. The impact on that circulates right back to the community that is making the music, that's pumping it out into the ears of their children. They refuse to even acknowledge the impact that they have on the overall circumstance. You're a part of the problem, Your Honor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
You are definitely part of the problem. And
you're part of the problem because you let George Zimmerman go, and then and he's innocent and he's free to go do what he wants. But here we are talking about OJ. Here we are talking about Michael Jackson. Here we are talking about Kobe Bryant. Here we are talking about you name they black ass. You get what I'm saying? But Casey Anthony's innocent. George Zimmerman's innocent. All of they people, when they beat their cases, is good to go.
Well, and another thing, you know, when we look at the situation with Rodney King and we think about what year that was, and then we look at the situation with George Floyd, how is it that 30 years later we are still, cameras weren't even what they are today, right? Back then, but yet we were able to witness Rodney King taking a serious ass whooping by the police department, and that was a huge part of who Tupac was. A huge part of what the Black Panthers stood for was, let's fight back. They out here killing us in the street. So, I mean, it's very relevant.
And once let me say something right now. Once they seen that the black people was going to try and fight back and have guns and stand up to their ass, it was all war against them. Whatever means it took, they got to get them out the way.
But it's the same difference right now with the Crips and Bloods or any other black gang organization. They are treating them the same exact way that they're treating the Black Panthers. If not worse.
Oh, yeah.
So what I don't understand is how we can unify in tribes, but we can't unify as a whole.
Because even in those tribes, so to speak, unity is still lacking. You know, all we have to do is take a look at, you know, the people that have been backdoored just in this state, or that have been done dirty by somebody from their soil just in this state. The Jacka, Nipsey Hussle, you know, the list goes on and on. So there's not even unity in those tribes. It's perceived unity, but it's false. It's not for real.
And all they have to do to change the narrative is pump something in someone's head to start the infiltration, and it takes off.
I love.
Go ahead.
I love how the the acronym Thug Life and the acronym for nigga, you know, never ignorant, getting goals accomplished. Thug Life, the hate you gave little infants fucks everyone. It's important for us to look at all of that and understand what his mission really was and try to get back on track with that, you know, because there was something to be said behind that. And the fact that he had the Panthers supporting him, yes, it put a bullseye on his back, but if we can try without, in not trying to put the Panthers back together, but pushing that same agenda to our people. That's what I feel like we need to pick up the ball and go back to trying to push that shit to the people.
Okay, I agree. Now, what I was going to say was going to tie into that. That's why it's important for our people to understand that this underbelly mentality has to cease as we unify. We can't break laws because we know that they're not going to allow us to break laws. So if we are pushing Panther mentality or unity mentality, we can't do it in ways that's going to get us caught up like the Panthers did, or ways that's going to get us caught up like any other militant group. Yes, we can arm ourselves, but as long as we armed legally, it's good. As long as we following shit to the letter of the law and not that underbelly ass mentality, then the progress can be made and you can still stand tall without having to have them trying to infiltrate. Go ahead, send a cop. we're following all the laws. Send your infiltrating ass piece of shit cop motherfucker to the shit. You know?
And you also have to have a very strict regimen of induction into the program. And what I mean by that is it's not always about strength in numbers. The strength is in solidarity. So, and what I mean by that is a group of 10 solid to the core people is far more powerful than a group of 150 people and only 30 of them is solid, because
Exactly.
because the remaining 120 are now points of penetration. They're possible double agents, all that other shit. It's not always about numbers. Sometimes it's about solidarity. So just because somebody can sing the song and act like they want to be down with what's going on, that don't give them a seat at the table, because we don't believe you. Actions.
Actions speak louder than words.
I didn't go out
we
and
care about your demonstration,
That's why I didn't go out and protest with the George Floyds and all those protests that were happening, because more than half of the people that were at the protest were just looking to steal some shit out of a store somewhere, or burn up something, or destroy something, just to say that they were there when it happened. You know what I'm saying? They didn't really give a fuck if the shit actually changed in the end.
Yeah, or to just
and I think one of the points that he made, he said that black on black crime, or the killings in the community, are just a reflection of us being scared to shoot the people who are doing it to us. Did you guys agree with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We've even said that before, that like, and this is a literal happening. Like, you'll have a group of people go somewhere and go slide on their opposition, somebody who looks like them. The police get behind them, they pull over and throw their hands in the air. You understand what I'm saying? Like you have
get out and bust on them too.
You have people that sign up for a certain way of life. I seen something on Facebook yesterday, and I just thought the dude was overwhelmingly retarded, But the police pulled up on the car. His dude sitting in there. They tell him to get out the car with his hands up. He jumps out, hands up, and there's a gun hanging out of the pocket on his hoodie. And they tell him, keep your hands, turn around, don't move. He reaches down after he turns around. They filled him with holes. So here's the thing. If you felt like you wanted to shoot it out with the police, why get up and throw your hands up first?
Right.
If that's what you wanted to do, don't act like this is what you're on if you're not really on that.
Right.
And then furthermore, you went out as if you did try to take them out.
Right.
And you didn't get to even squeeze off a shot.
You ain't get your hand on the gun.
It's a damn shame.
And I'm not saying that, we need to go start shooting up the police. I don't want it to be misconstrued as to that, what I'm saying, or that our podcast is even pushing that type of energy for any punk motherfucker out there that's looking for a reason to say something. That's not what we're on. I'm just saying, if you claim to be super hardcore, then you should probably be just as hard no matter who is running up on you. You understand what I'm saying? And we also have to be for real about, like, we could talk all this shit, but as long as we want to nibble at all these little pieces of things that are in the media, on television, and everything else that are set here to distract us, we ain't keeping it real. It's phoniness. If we know that any aspect of our culture is being promoted as a distraction to us mentally, and to embed in our hearts something that will continue to stagnate us, we're a part of the problem. I don't give a fuck how many fish you pump in the air. If you down with the little bit of dog shit that's in your brownies, you still eating dog shit.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's important also because you just said a key word, the media. The media's portrayal of us is one way, right? So you cannot afford, if you're going to be with the movement, you can't afford to be caught up in that aspect of it. You got to dig into what's really going on. It's not about how they're portraying us to be. It's about what really is. Mm-hmm. We got to see things for how they really are.
Mm-hmm.
Shit like they'll say that blacks only make up 13 to 17% of the population, but are responsible for 50% of the crime in the United States. And that's a goddamn lie.
And that's bullshit.
Right.
Goddamn lie.
Well,
Right,
I thought it was 50%. I thought it was 50% of the homicides. I didn't know it was crime in general.
All violent crimes, basically.
I don't think that's I don't think that's a lie.
It is.
I think that's probably pretty fucking accurate. And here's the reason why I say that. Because if you sit in the circle of people that are not from black communities, you'll be hard pressed to find someone that knows a person that's been shot, or knows a person that shot somebody, knows somebody that's been robbed, or knows a person that's robbed somebody, knows somebody that smoked dope, sell dope. The numbers are going to decrease when you fall outside the black community. The fact that you can sit 50 black people in a room and the majority of them are going to be able to relate to those circumstances from one side or the other, that right there proves the statistic to be somewhat accurate. Otherwise, how do we have all this closely related experience?
So let's pick apart the show. Let's pick apart the series, for instance. Some of the things that were done were unethical. If you look at what was going on with the Panther 21, you look at what was done, how they had sent tactical patrol units to everybody's house. The shit was illegal as fuck, right?
It still is illegal. They're still doing the same shit.
Right, but they're doing it, and they're not doing it to the same type of group. You know what I mean? So it's not as effective. Them by them taking them out, knowing that they had a mission that was actually useful. Them raiding drug dealers' houses isn't useful to the community. But I'm saying by them doing it to the Panthers, it hit us. That was gonna hurt. They accomplished everything that they wanted to accomplish by tearing apart everything that the Black Panthers stood for.
You know, on one of the series, on one of the shows, after they raided the house and they came back with all the artillery that they said they recovered from their house, but the sheriffs are holding billy clubs and sledgehammers and
bow and arrows.
Yeah, man. But by any means necessary. Full force.
I don't know. I think money has become and wealth has become a distraction for our people as well. And it's probably the biggest overall distraction because it's used as a reason to do everything bad.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? It's used as a reason to justify all the bad shit.
And someone can get paid to hurt their same people. And a lot of people are
not really about money though. When it really boils down to it, if you ever spend any prolonged amount of time in the streets, this shit ain't happening because niggas is about their dough.
They're jealous.
No.
Yeah, because even the people that are supposedly about their dough, or even some of these niggas that's actually out here getting it, when you look at the circumstances that they came from, their beginnings are not like, oh man, yeah, we didn't have a pot to piss in and a window to throw it out of. It's more or less that they were trying to live up to a certain type of image. You know what I'm saying? Like, you want to have this money so you can have this image. It's not because the lights was out, countless times through your upbringing and you got tired of living like that.
And
it's
you have
not
to take care of your whole entire family.
And you got tired of living like that. You dig what I'm saying? Like, people is like, some of these rappers talking about, yeah, I remember my mom got me my Jordans when I was in high school. Nigga, your mama was getting you Jordans. You ain't as broke as you saying you was.
Yeah,
right.
You was doing it better than everybody on this motherfucking podcast. If that
Real talk. You know what I mean? And I think that's what I mean. It's a lot of cap out there. Everybody want to say they got it out the mud. They come from the gutter. And sometimes, no, you didn't, nigga. You just came from a middle class home.
There is no mud in the suburbs, motherfucker. Well,
and one of the things was the beauty of the show, though. I think that it was evident Tupac got it out the mud. You know what I mean?
He really came from it.
He really came from it.
He really didn't have shit.
That's what I'm saying. And that's proof in itself right there. The shit that he was spitting, where people want to get caught up in the East Coast, West Coast, and he really wasn't from the West, and he really wasn't from the. Oh, it doesn't matter. The nigga went from
everywhere.
Exactly, from pillar to post, and he had one thing in mind, and that was trying to bring information to the people, information that was shoved down his throat as a child.
Right, and you can say Tupac wasn't a real nigga, he was hood hopping and all this, but how many niggas you know right now could go all across the United States and be accepted in every motherfucking turf they landed their feet on?
Right. Well, even people on the show were saying how it didn't matter, black, white, yellow, red, whatever, broke, high hog.
They was fucking with Pac.
Exactly. Exactly.
He has star quality. You know, even in his interview when he was 17, and you could see he was nervous and unsure of himself in some ways, all of that. He still had more to say than the average person who was in their 20s at that time. He was a standout individual. You know, he wasn't gonna sit in the room and be overlooked.
And how many of these?
Well, what about all the reading that he did? He did so much reading. He was not just the information that his mom. I'm sorry to cut you off, Dees. Not just the information that his mom got him, or that he got from being exposed to having family members in the Panthers, but just the fact that he took it upon himself to read, to educate himself on the art of war, not even just that, but just so many different types of books that he actually was reading. And I think that that's one of the key points we got to bring back up. People, and you say this all the time, Valerie, you know, the information is before us. We need to dig into that information because it's already there.
The information doesn't have a big ass booty clapping on it. So it doesn't have a big ass $sign or a 40 Glock on it with a switch and a fucking 50 drum. So we're not interested.
Yeah.
That's what I meant when I was talking about the distractions, you know, whether it be big asses or street shit or rich time Miami living or whatever the case may, all that shit is meant to distract us from reality. And the reality is that you know, there's no relaxation period if you're trying to elevate. And I think Tupac was the prime example of that. I'll sleep when I'm dead.
Right. And that was his mission too. He stayed in the studio, stayed keeping his mind fresh on everything, constantly.
Well, I think it was also so good to see because, you know, from I consider myself a poet, nowhere near on the level of Tupac, but the fact that he was a poet and a rapper, that he read, like I said, intelligent information, like just the type of character that he really was deep at his core. That's why I love Tupac. I don't. It's not just about him having a handsome face and all. I love Tupac from the gate, from the fact that he could hear the story about Brenda's Got a Baby. You know, how he really came up with a song. And that was the very first thing, like on All Around the World, same song. I love When I Clown Around, When I Hang Around with the Underground. That was the shit. But when he came out with Brenda's Got a Baby, that's when I was like, whoa, you know, but it was the flow. It was the intentions. He had an intention. He wanted to share a story. And that's what we're obligated to do, is kind of share information. And I'd see that's what he was really trying to do. It didn't matter if it wasn't something. And most of the rappers that were out then was not talking about that shit. They all were talking about gangster rap and stuff like that. So he had something to bring to the table that didn't nobody else offer.
Even, you know, even on their poorest day, didn't have no food. Afeni Shakur said she had 2 potatoes and she made some French fries and they sat and ate them French fries, and she played a folk song, and that's how they got through dinner and sang the song. She was constantly, even in her addiction, she was still feeding to Tupac and his sister that they needed to step up and do better for the Black race. And that's how he was molded into that. He had no choice but to do that. In his wound, he heard her in the courtroom trying to defend her well-being, he had no choice.
Well, and another thing, you're absolutely.
I want to touch on something right quick. I'm not to cut you off, but I want to go back
Good.
to something you said about him reading. Because I was listening to Saab, where she talking about, you know, how he stayed in the studio and this and that. And
Yes.
he did. He stayed in the studio. He stayed writing rhymes. He stayed writing poetry. He shot all them movies. But we're talking about the avoiding the mindset of always looking to put your feet up. You think about all the reading and studying that he did. That goes to show how he looked at even what we might categorize as downtime, as free time. He used that free time to take in knowledge and information to kind of like feed the soil that his creativity grew from. And that's
Right.
why his creative works were so profound. That's why when he got up to speak at different venues, it was so profound, because even in his downtime, he was still putting in work on himself. And that's what I meant when I said we have to understand that fuck rest and relaxation. Like it says in the quote here, we who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes.
Right.
I'll sleep when I'm dead.
Right. Right.
And see,
If
that's
we,
one of the biggest distractions now is all, you know, black people want to just jump on a jet, go somewhere where it's earth and water, and you know, drink and shake their ass and party mentality that we have, as if, you know, going and seeing shit is some sort of great knowledge. I mean, if you're not learning the culture of these people or the struggles of these people or the politics of these people, just because you go to their soil doesn't mean you're picking up anything and taking anything with you when you leave.
Mm-mm,
right.
mm-mm.
You can say
Yeah.
you've been all around the world. But if you didn't learn shit, but when you went all around the world, that is, in my opinion, that's a stain against you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it just goes to prove that the mentality of other races and the mentality of black people is totally different. Because when he was on that panel with the police officers and the slain officer's wife and family, and they were saying that his music caused, the one dude said that his music caused him to shoot the police. And then the lady says, then because you're promoting shooting the police. He said, I ain't never said shoot the police. I ain't never, not once. And then she says, oh, I know how people,
I know a lot about your people.
yeah, how you people think. And he said, how you people, how you figure you people, how do we think? Oh, I know. You don't know nothing.
That exchange right there was part of the reason why he was viewed the way he was by politicians. And what I mean is that she said, oh, well, your music talks about cop killing. And he said, no, my music speaks about police brutality and self-defense.
That's
And
right.
so that right there had Black Panther Party written all over it.
Yeah,
You know,
and I
damn
mean,
well the
but
politicians
what
jump
if
on that.
if you see that police brutality is never going to end? What are you supposed to do? So they're basically telling us, okay, our cops are never going to stop killing you Negroes, and just deal with it.
Yeah, because the cops are demigods in the eyes of the average person in society. They can't be held to the same standards as us. They can't do no wrong. They should be heralded and praised for everything they do because their job is hard. Their job is hard.
And you know, they get a pass on everything. They could come in and do whatever the fuck they want to because they're the police, even though they're not supposed to disrespect or
The cops should be held to a higher standard legally than regular civilians.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You
Well, the
think about
fact,
truck drivers, for instance, we're held to a higher standard than regular civilians on some simple shit. You know, what is it, 0.4, whatever the alcohol legal limit is. If you're a regular citizen, if you got a CDL license, it's 0.2. It's 50% of that. Because we're considered professional drivers, we're held to a higher standard. Why wouldn't that same principle be applied to law enforcement? You
makes a
know?
lot of sense. So, did you guys? How did you feel about Alan Hughes doing it, and the conversation that they had with him in regards to the relationship with him and Tupac? Was it believable to you guys that he was since coming from a sincere place and trying to portray the story the way that Afeni would have wanted it to be told?
I think that the documentary itself proves it to be genuine. I
Yeah.
mean, look at the wealth of information that was shared and the amount of people from that time frame and from the center of her life and Tupac's life that were reached out to be a part of it. I think the way it unfolded is a demonstration of his genuine standpoint.
I agree. I
And I
agree.
really hate that they weren't able to put the differences they had to bed before Tupac passed, because um, Pac wanted to, and so did he, but they, just didn't never happened.
Well,
Hmm.
if he would have been around longer, I'm sure that it would have taken place. Um, it's just the fact that his untimely death,
Right.
untimely death is what caused them to not be able to fix that. But the fact that in the little bit of time that they were friends, stuck with them for a lifetime. That friendship, because it goes to show you can come interact with lots of people on your path, but how many people are really going to touch your life?
Because
How
Pac was
many?
genuine. He was genuine. He was, man. Oh man.
That's why it irritates me when people try to label him and say that he, what, like he wasn't real. And then, like we were just saying, these same other rappers who claim they're realer or harder or more seasoned than, the struggle in Tupac, mama bought them Jordans when they was little, and they didn't eat ramen, and they didn't have to eat the potato French fries and listen to an old folk song, or they had a fucking iPhone at school, and they had J's on and Louis Vuitton belts and all this old shit. You get what I'm saying? So it's like, how do you compare to this nigga? How do you, what makes you think you compare to a nigga of this caliber when you were basically a white kid as far as your upbringing?
Well, and even in the project setting, because I mean, let's face it, there's some people who might live in the projects that are not dirt poor. That's a reflection of their living situation, but that doesn't mean they don't have decent furniture to sit on and decent beds to sleep on and at least some food in the refrigerator. But in the project setting, based on what we've seen in the documentary and the information that was shared, when you went into the projects, his family represented the poorest of the poor people in there.
Yes,
You
they
know what
said
I'm
he
saying?
had no furniture.
There was people in the projects that was doing way better than them. That's before you even step outside of that. Before you even get 10 blocks away. Just right there, there's people doing way better than them. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
there's a
I think
picture of
people
him and
cling to this
Yakula.
people cling to this ideology of, oh yeah, we didn't have nothing and it was this, that, and the other. Maybe you had a lot and you just had a taste for a whole lot of shit that you weren't willing to actually go work for.
Yeah. What's up, Miko? What's up, Niche? We see you in the chat over there.
Yeah, shout out to the chat. Sorry for ignoring y'all.
No, it's okay. We just jumped right in today. It's a lot to cover.
It
Hmm.
is. I
Because
mean,
and
one
we're
show's
talking.
not going to cover it all, because this is something that we need to be constantly pumping this out into our community, that we need to unify. We need to start building a coalition of us together, and not with some fake ass shit, but some real ass shit.
Yeah, because
Well, see,
all the
that's the
money in the
beginning
world
of
ain't gonna fix these circumstances that our people are in right now.
that's the beginning of it. We not trying to fix nobody. That I
Right.
think that's where a lot of people go wrong. It's,
No,
it's
I
trying
ain't
to
said fix
fix.
nobody.
No, hear me out though.
They fix the circumstances, not human beings.
Hear what I'm saying. The Panthers, the first thing they did was draw up a 10-point program. So we're going to have some structure. We're going to have bylaws. We're going to have a mission statement before we swing one motherfucking figurative punch. Because if you're going to stand up and have something to say, let's make sure we actually have something to say. It's not enough to just say, hey, we want to do this and we want to change this, that, and the other. For what do we represent? That's
Right.
the first order of business.
Yeah.
You know?
And so some of the things that I learned in watching the docuseries was just some of the things that the Panthers did. The things that they did in the community, feeding, clothing, teaching people how to read. Those are kind of things. So it was all about trying to make people stronger, even if they weren't part of the Panthers. The community, making the community stronger because they were there. You get what I'm saying? So that's just so like how you were saying a few minutes ago, we ain't got to save nobody. All we got to do is put the information out there, be of some assistance. You know what I mean? Right. What you do with the information is completely up to you. But we do have an obligation to try to share it, put it
Absolutely.
out
there. Fady says, I'm just curious about what you consider fake, Savage. I don't remember if I said fake. I don't even remember what I said. You know, I got Alzheimer's sometimes. So, but if I meant anything, we don't want anybody not being genuine to the struggle and not being with what's going on. You know, that's what if I meant anything.
I mean, depending on when you was born, there's people that like niggas that's born in the early 80s and onward, they'll tell you, oh, black folks got the equal opportunities as all other people. You know, like motherfuckers don't even see shit the same way based on when they was born. So sometimes it's not fake. It's just a different mentality because their upbringing, their circumstances were different than the ones that we came up in. You know what I mean?
Well, and I think that's where empathy comes in. You got to be able to empathize. I don't think that you have to be born in the struggle to help be a part of the change that comes along. You get what I'm saying? So not everybody who is in the struggle, who's getting it out of the mud, is going to be a part of the change. You don't have to actually be living it to be part of the change to come. You know what I mean? The bottom line is, what can you do? What are you bringing to the table? Can you empathize for the people who are in that circumstance? Do you want to really see results from it?
So look at this. You mentioned Rodney King, right? And how we still see the same type of police brutality going on 30 years later. 33 years later to be exact. Okay. It's only been 58 years since it was made a law that, you know, you could not prevent people from voting based on their skin or nationality. It's only been 58 motherfucking years. So if you think about the Rodney King incident and all the other police brutality that happened before then, and then when it was finally on video, now 33 years later, it's still on video and nothing has changed. So anybody that thinks that, oh yeah, racism that was only 58 years ago is done away with because we had Barack Obama and because there's blacks on television.
Right.
These are the distractions I'm talking about. It takes far too long for shit to be completely wiped out of the mentality of society.
First of all, it's never gonna be wiped out of how
is because it's still a part of the society. That's just us seeing it played out. You see what I mean?
Well, just like the white man in Oakland that was calling those people N-words on the freeway and wound up going to jail or whatever. You know what I'm saying? People would try to make it seem like that's just an isolated incident, but overwhelmingly, that's how they feel about us. You get what I'm saying?
That's how they're gonna always see us.
But that's part of, we're to blame for a lot of that because we think it's trendy to be underbelly type people. You know what I'm saying? To be gangsters or to be killers or, you know, all the things that's glamorized now is like crazy that we think that shit is okay.
Yeah, you know, it's crazy because it's a lot of people of other than Black people that are doing crimes. It's a lot of people doing crimes, okay? But 9 times out of 10, that person that's doing that crime, that's showing their ass and getting ignorant, is not that other race. It's our race. And it just puts a stain on us even more. It's sad.
It does.
Well,
Because
well,
what else do we have to offer? This is the biggest contribution we have for our society.
here's the thing. Yeah, other races are committing crimes. They're committing murders. They're you know, we know that there's organized crime syndicates for other races and this, that, and the other. But here's something that they all understand that ignorant ass niggas just don't never want to get. The number one rule in criminality is to get away with it. It's not to gallivant and floss and look how much money I made from my empire and blah, blah, all the dumbass shit that you see people doing. You understand what I'm saying? Like, so of course it's going to draw more attention than the other races. Some of that has nothing to do with race hatred. It's about, nigga, quit getting on stage doing all this shit and then fucking having an attitude when the audience takes notice of it.
And saying that somebody told when all you did was fucking basically telling yourself with your actions, you know. People shooting people. If motherfuckers nowadays really think that it's feasible to shoot a man on camera, that is okay to do.
What they don't fail to realize, it's cameras everywhere. Even not before this, is someone recording it from their cell phone. It's cameras at every stoplight. It's cameras, doorbells. It's cameras in businesses. It's cameras everywhere. They don't catch it. It's satellite.
Here's the thing. Why are you shooting this nigga?
That's what I was thinking right here.
What really took place? Was your life in danger?
Right.
Or was it like, oh, man, fuck that, fuck you talking about, oh, punk ass, whole ass nigga, you know how these niggas be talking all this. Everybody got all the sayings that are supposedly street related, you know? Man, fuck all that talking you doing. What's really going on? Oh, I get it. I know what happened. Somebody said something to you and you're such an emotional bitch that you couldn't handle it. So now you got to go fuck up somebody's family and take somebody's life. I don't respect that. I'm sorry.
And in the end of the day, the person you kill is not the one who's affected by it the most.
No.
Right. It's their families. It's their families.
So,
you know,
what reason did you have to go spend the rest of your days looking at a wall? Every day you wake up in the morning in that cell and you look at the wall and say, damn, oh yeah, that's right. I shot that nigga at that gas station over some bullshit.
Mm-hmm. You're never be able to justify it in your mind. You know,
I think that we got to stop looking at the fact that, because we were like, oh, one of the comments was, and we see y'all jumping in the comments over there. So shout out to everybody. But one of the comments said, we still get a harsher sentence than our counterparts. I feel like as a people, we got to stop focusing on us getting a harsher sentence and start finding a way to not be the ones who are getting sentenced.
No. That's relevant as fuck, because the reason why that's relevant is because 2 white men can get in a fight at the store and throw punches and blows, and it ain't really no big deal. But if I go to the store and throw a few punches, now they want to give me the maximum punishment allowable by the law. That is bullshit.
I understand.
It's definitely bullshit.
But I think it goes back to like what Jim Carrey on Liar Liar, when it's his secretary handed him the phone and said, yeah, such and such is calling. He said he robbed another liquor store and wants to know you can give some legal advice. And he picked up the phone and said, stop breaking the law, asshole. Sometimes it's that simple. It's that fucking simple. Stop trying to be this crime guru.
Right.
And
we have to, as a people, we have to start thinking of ways to bring about change. And that's why I feel like it's so important to continue the conversation about the Panthers, what they stood for, Also kick back on what you were saying, Deez, about unity. All these things are important in the bigger picture. We have to look at the bigger picture. Sure, there are scenarios where we might want to just have to go bust on somebody, but we have to remove ourselves from that situation. We got to be the change that we want to see. It starts with us.
And see, they held meetings constantly to gather us together, collectively together, so they could broaden their minds with what they needed to know. Some people don't know a lot. They're ignorant to the struggle, not to the struggle, but to how to make a difference or who to change.
Ignorant on how to change. Ignorant, and that's why I'm saying that's my point of us covering the series, is because it's so much information in there that is helpful to things that we can do individually and in our families, then in our communities, that can, because we still have the ability to do the same stuff that we're doing then. That we
have a greater ability, because they had to actually go to the library and find the books. And if that library didn't have the book, now they had to do research on what library did have it. And they might have had to call and request and see, it's going to take 2 weeks to get here. We can go get every book that all them niggas read right now online and have it at our door within the next 5 business days. We can't be lazy mentally. We have an advantage on that they didn't have.
We definitely do.
Definitely.
Do we really want to do the work? That's the question.
That's a big question.
No, well,
I think self-hate is a real thing. I think that's what it boils down to. Deep down, blacks don't like if I pulled up in a Bentley, right now, let's just say I hustled and I grinded and I got a business and opened up a couple of Chipotle's or something like that. You know what I'm saying? And now I'm wealthy enough to where I can afford me a Bentley and a nice house, and I pull up and go back to the hood or slide back through South Sac or Sacramento in general, whatever I do. Somebody gonna see me in my Bentley and they gonna have a problem with me being at that level.
Yeah.
It's because it's haterism and jealousy.
Well, that's why I said self-hate. Because the white man could come through in his old school 50s, $100,000 motherfucking old school, and ain't no nigga with black skin gonna be thinking about killing or shooting this motherfucker.
Right.
Justin Bieber can pull up in a Lambo.
Right.
And ain't nobody thinking about robbing him and taking his chain.
Right, because he doesn't fit the description of what we have been subconsciously taught to view as our opposition. Even the term Black Panther, you look it up, and it's not just going to be what it was before, where you looked up Black Panther, you might actually see the animal, and then you'd see a bunch of stuff that's relative to what we're talking about. Now that imagery has been altered to when you look it up, you might see Michael B. Jordan and all this other stuff. But if you really even unpack that, Wakanda is this great society and this, that, and the other. But who was they beefing with? Another motherfucking black man.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? It's like this silent, these behind the curtain narratives that are being implanted in us, and we're starving so greatly for a positive black image that we soak that shit up without even analyzing its components or its ingredients.
I said that from the gate.
But that's because our society is reminded that if they did make Black Panther outright beef with white people, then it would be considered promoting racial division and racial hatred, or it would have been.
Those are just facets of reality, though, right?
I get it, but I'm just saying that's how it would have been perceived, that it was trying to get blacks to promoting black on white violence or black on, it would have been perceived that way, just like nowadays, everything has to have, these check marks on it. If you make a movie now, check, I got to have something for the LGBTQ. I gotta have a strong woman lead who's tougher than all the other leads. I gotta have this and this and this. I gotta fit into this political bracket and all this in order to make a movie now.
Well, and I want to go back to saying how knowledge is power. One of the parts of the movie that I thought or the docu-series that I thought was great was one of the guys was speaking. He's saying, "Oh, good. I was waiting. He said, "I'm going to get armed today." And then they came and they gave him books. That was how they armed him. And he didn't see that as being armed. So let's continue to push educating ourselves and giving ourselves the backstory, because it's being erased, and how the media's portrayal is not going to change on what they give us. It's up to us to go get it.
Right.
We're all not lucky enough to have Afeni Shakur teaching us all this information, but the blueprint has been left. It's up to us to go back and start trying to find out more about people like Bobby Seals, find out more about
Stokely Carmichael.
Exact. Stokely. I mean, it's just so many different names that came up while I was watching that I feel like all of them were important. All these were important people, and we need to do a little bit more research. Just like when you said last week on the show, and you did, Hugh P., you said, hey, everybody's seen a picture of him in this chair. Everybody's seen that picture. That's the only picture. That's how we know who he is. But how many knew who he really was? And I feel like if we start going back and look at some of the people who were involved in this, go back and read up on the Black Panthers, go back and read up on the members, that in itself is arming ourselves.
How could the generation that had leaders like that come before them think that they're more powerful than those men were?
I don't think that anybody really thinks that. I don't think anybody really thinks that. I think that a lot of the shit that people say in this generation are expressions of hidden insecurity. You're a soft, moist ass bitch, and when you see somebody that is a representation of true strength, your insecurity forces you to try to make negative comments about them. That's psychology 101. Them motherfuckers don't really believe that shit. That's the only shell they have to hide behind for fear that the world might see them for who they really are.
How is Little Baby more popular than Malcolm X?
Oh, well, I mean, he's not. He's only more popular than Malcolm X among people of that age group.
Right.
I also wanted to point out,
who are their leaders, though? Right now, if we was to say, and the shit hit the fan, and somebody invaded this country, or the country uprised and decided to overthrow the government, and now everything has to be built from scratch. Who is going to be our representatives right now, right this second?
It's all on TV for them, though. I think we have a unique position because we were actually called nigger by white people. We were actually called spirit chucker, jigaboo. The Klan actually left shit at our door. You understand what I'm saying? Everybody don't have that experience. So they're not even looking for a leader. To lead what? When all they really want for Christmas is a big booty girl. Their minds are dead. They're not even aligned with what we're talking about.
Right. And furthermore, they think they're the leader.
Well, they are the leader. If the only thing you want is a big booty girl, you are the leader. You want a pocket full of cash and a thick chick, you are the leader. But your life measures up to nothing.
A thick chick who looked like Robert Guillaume without her wig.
Stop talking about me, nigga. No, I thought that the choice of people who they had brung on to have conversations with, Mike Tyson, Shock G, Ray Love, Dr. Dre, Layla, Idi Amin, his aunt, which I don't know. I think his aunt's name was Glow. Was that the aunt's name? Was Glow?
Yeah, that was Glow.
Okay. But the people that they picked to come, they brought people in who were gonna bring the truth about it, and people who also believed in Tupac, because they experienced him firsthand. So they got to see more than just what we seen on TV. So I thought that they did a good job with picking people. I thought it was jumping from time to time, during it. But I thought that it was just overall, it made me feel good. It made me feel sad. It stirred up a lot of emotions because it made me remember a time when I was following so closely that everything that was going on with Tupac. And I really believed that he was going to change, that he was going to bring about the changes that he wanted to. I had faith in both sides of it. I thought that nigga's crazy. One thing I learned about him too was that he was a marksman shooter. I was like, this nigga was a marksman shooter. And I thought that was great. I didn't know that about him. I knew he liked guns before. So I thought that the docuseries provided so many different angles about him as a person, so many angles and things about Afeni, so many angles about the Panther Party. We can't overlook that. So the encouraging people to watch it, they're gonna gain something from it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they had to do that because nowadays everybody tries to diminish. I mean, let's just ask the question out loud. How many Afeni and Tupac Shakurs exist today, right now? How many black mothers are on this level, and how many black sons are on his level?
Right.
You get what I'm saying? So
Seriously.
the reason why they had to expose him being a marksman and him being into his guns and having a cache of weapons and all that shit is because people always try to throw, he was just an actor. He was just an entertainer.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? No, that's what all these niggas is today.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And even if they do got some murders or some then killed somebody and all that shit, anybody can go out and commit senseless crimes. It doesn't take some special motherfucker to go out and do senseless shit.
Not at all.
Right. So did you guys already know about COINTELPRO?
Hell
Ben
yeah,
knew about it.
That's like common reading in prison.
Yeah, Ben knew about it.
Right. Well, and for me, I ain't gonna lie, I knew that they had infiltrated, but I didn't know that it was like a whole thing. I didn't really know the depth of which they went to destroy the party. I think that was definitely important too.
So you don't remember the movie Panther?
Watch that.
Okay.
Yeah, because it was still had its cinematic twist to it, but there was a lot of factual shit that they broke down in that movie, and the counterintelligence program was one of them. That's
COINTELPRO. So, okay.
Yeah,
and it's fucked up because what they essentially did was scare black people into not being
to not standing up for themselves.
Not stand up for themselves. Yeah. Basically, they scared black people into not stand up for themselves, and it's still prevalent right now in our society. Like we still crying out when George Floyd gets his neck stood on. Everybody should have acted right then. What do you think Tupac would have did if he was standing there and George Floyd would have been getting his neck standing on? What do you think he would have did? Since we want to talk about how much of a pussy and a chump he was.
Right.
Here's what I think about how they did the Black Panthers. Like you said, it was to make people fearful of standing up for themselves. Okay, so it was nothing more than a modern day version of the buck breaking that used to take place on the plantations. Back then, they would just go ahead and they would savagely beat the alpha male of the slave. They would savagely rape the alpha male of the slave. And the whole point was, if this is who y'all look up to as a pillar of strength, let me show you what we do to strong people. That's how you subjugate people, is by attacking their mind. And that's why when the Panthers, like you said, he thought he was finna go get armed. They gave him a bunch of books. That was them arming him, because a warrior's greatest weapon is his mind. Your mind has to be weaponized. Otherwise, any attack you face, you're ill prepared.
Right.
Yes. The Black Panther movement practiced armed self-defense, and they was influenced by this this writer of the book Negroes with Guns. Okay, and on defending themselves. Okay. You guys have ever heard of that book?
Nuh-uh. I know that Huey P. Newton had mentioned that a lot of the mentality or the overall energy um, that that sparked the birth of the Panthers was out of their admiration for the mentality that Malcolm X had. You know, he believed in self-defense by any means necessary. You know what I mean? He believed that, you know, you got to fight fire with fire. If they got guns, we supposed to have them. If they shooting, we should be shooting. You know what I mean? So I think them building that into the structure of their organization, it came from a multitude of places. But the fact is that they embodied it. You know what I mean? They were, and I don't think people really understand the amount of courage it must have taken for a group of black men in the
Yes,
60s to stand up in front of armed police with guns and say,
absolutely.
we can get it in right now. I mean,
Yeah.
these weren't your ordinary individuals.
No, they was not. But
Well, and they were
you guys want to hear the 10 points that they went by? The Black Panther, the 10 points that
Maybe you can screenshot it and we can share it or something. Or
okay,
put it
let
in
me
the
try
chat
and
or
do
something
that.
like that.
Okay,
Yeah.
let me try and do that.
Mm-hmm.
So also I had learned that Afeni was a section leader and a frontline lieutenant for the Black Panthers, which that's a big deal. That was a big deal. She mattered. Her opinion mattered and her position mattered. And she, even listening to, I forget the guy's name, but he was saying when he watched her speak, and he was like, who is this woman? And you know how strong she looked and came across. It touched me, and I was like, damn, imagine how much information. And nobody was forcing her to get it. She was reading all that on her own because, as the sister said, you know, she didn't really have a whole bunch of friends. She didn't fit in once they moved to New York from North Carolina. That's when the first time that they had ever heard of light skin, dark skin, short hair, long hair. So she, instead of sitting there feeling sorry for herself, she just began to learn more about. She read and made herself powerful through all the knowledge that she gained.
Mm-hmm.
And let's not forget about Afeni Shakur and Angela Davis as well, because they were of the same cloth as Afeni, and they played positions in the struggle and faced very similar, if not identical, circumstances in the struggle.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. Barbara Easley, Kathleen Cleaver, Erica Huggins also.
So just real quick, that link that I posted in the chat, that's a link to the Panthers 10-point program. So if anybody wants to get a bar of that, there it is right there, you know.
Oh, I was trying to pull it up, but okay.
Yeah.
I'm pulling it up. I want to see it.
And I think one of the comments Q had put on there, he said buck breaking is still done to this day, and we watch as it happens and still do nothing. And I think that that's true. That's why we see some of the things like Ahmaud Arbery, you know, shot down in broad daylight in the street. Even though he wasn't our leader, it was them reminding us, we will kill you in broad daylight and think nothing of it. We will chase you down for jogging in the street. That is a form of buck breaking. That is placing fear in somebody.
And that's why I'm always screaming it out. Like I say it all the time. If you black in America and you don't think it's important to own guns, you tripping. Because they got them and they are ready, itching to use them on you. You know what I mean? So like, that's just one of the things we have to understand, that that's what it is. It's like a lawnmower. The grass gonna grow. You got to cut it. It's on the same lines. It's an unavoidable reality.
Crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the reason why I put the link in here and didn't try to pull it up is because I couldn't find anything that I was going to be able to fit all into one photo to create a slide to add it to the screen. It just would have been, it'd have been too much.
Right. And even as I look,
I don't want to disrupt the flow of the conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
What's this?
That's just my slide. I was.
Oh, okay.
Hold on. I thought
That's,
I had
Matulu.
yeah. But I thought I had a different picture in there. Guess not. Sorry. I thought I had a picture of the Panther 21 when they had got arrested, all of them.
So I think we should go ahead and dive into a little bit of that, especially since I seen you had some info on that in your slides. Let's talk a little bit more about the Panther 21, because I think that ties right in with the whole shit you were talking about with the COINTELPRO.
Right. So the Panther 21, they were all arrested for supposedly planning to set off multiple bombs at various locations at the same time. And that was the reason why the FBI raided their homes, and they were all arrested for this. You can go into a little bit about that if you want to, Tavon.
Okay. One of the things that I found just looking over it is part of how they were able to beat the case is because it was proven that some of the planning and plotting and the idea of it in general was introduced by the police informants that they had put into the Panther group. So I guess that kind of would be categorized as a form of entrapment.
Yes.
You came in here with these ideas and you talked people into
That's
doing
what
it.
Afeni said in trial.
Yes, she riled that man's cage to the utmost degree.
You around here effing on all these women. You know what I'm saying?
Were you a cop or were you a Panther at the time?
Right.
What was you doing at that moment? Yeah.
Were you a Panther? Were you a cop when you was telling us how to shoot the gun, how to cut someone's throat? Was you a cop then?
Yeah.
The writing is so small. I'm gonna.
Yeah, I ain't even gonna attempt.
Yeah, I have it on my phone. But up here it says the Freedom Archives is a space that allowed me to discover and learn more about Black history, prison movements, and other national and international political movements. It's dedicated to honoring lesser-known revolutionaries such as Afeni Shakur. So the Freedom Archives is also a place where you guys can also go, where you can research more information about other revolutionaries.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting right there. The Freedom Archives. I'm gonna tap into that because although I think that the work that needs to be done currently is of greater importance, it's just like if you was dedicated to a sport, you'd go back and look at the greats from the history of that sport, and it's no different. It's the same principle,
Right.
It does some good to know the strengths and the weaknesses, the ups and downs of people that then rode that wave before you. Mm-hmm.
Again, I have the names of the Panther 21, but you can look it up as well, the New York 21, and it'll have that information on there as well.
Yeah, I seen it earlier. I didn't bother putting it together or nothing like that because I knew you had a bunch of information, so I didn't want to, convolute nothing or double exposure on that. I didn't know exactly what you had, so.
One of the interesting things that I thought too is that Marlon Brando spoke out also, and in order for change to come about, white people are going to have to be able to be engaged in this too. One of the things Tupac was always saying is that he's not a racist, that he's not out here saying he hates whites. That he was fighting for the injustice, and he spoke about equality. That was a big deal to him. He constantly was speaking on how things that were going on, not just to Black people, but to all minorities, to all quote unquote lower class citizens.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But also one thing I found out, and I see you, Jabal, with that Black Panther Party 10-point program. We can jump into that. Also, Jimi Hendrix wanted to sponsor the Black Panthers. I don't think a lot of people knew that. Also, that was something else that I learned in watching. But unfortunately, he met his untimely demise during all of this as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's unfortunate. But I think one of the things that we can't deny is that even though the organization itself wound up being tore down and disbanded, however you want to say it, that uh, the energy, the soul of it has lived on.
Yeah,
We're still talking about it, and
yeah.
maybe not everybody is, but there's groups of people just like us that have this type of shit on our minds. That's an important enough topic to discuss, and we're not the only ones doing this. You know what I mean? So that says something about what they put together and the energy that it carried, that it's still alive today.
Right. So just to jump into the Black Party Panther 10-point program, this is from 1966. Number one is we want freedom. We want power to determine the destiny of Black community. Number two, we want full employment for our people. Number three, we want an end to the robbery by white man of our Black community. Four, we want decent housing, fit shelter for human beings. Five, we want education for our people that exposes the true nature of the descendant American.
Decadent.
Okay, the nature of what is that?
Decadent
Decadent
American society.
American society. I need to have my damn glasses on. We want education that teaches us our true history and a role in present day society. Number six, we want all Black men to be exempt from military service. Number seven, we want immediate end to police brutality and murder of Black people. And number seven is one I'm going to come back to too. Number eight, we want freedom for all Black men held in federal, state, county, and city prisons and jails. Number nine, we want all Black people, when brought to trial, to be tried in court by a jury of their peers or a group of people in the Black community as defined by the Constitution of the United States. 10, we want land, bread, housing, education, clothing, justice, and peace. And as major political objective, United Nations supervised. Somebody take it from there because I can't see that word. Plebiscite to be held throughout the Black community, in which only Black colonial subjects will be allowed to participate for the purpose of determining the will of Black people as to their national destiny.
And see, that's dope. That's
It is.
kind of what I meant about when I said them putting together the 10-point program. First and foremost is it gives a structured layout of what it is that they're representing, what their objective is.
Yes, I'm gonna read something else too, and it says, because of the practice of armed self-defense against police, as well as the communist and revolutionary elements, the Black Panther Party was frequently targeted by the Federal Bureau of Investigation's COINTELPRO program, as well as by the state and local law enforcement groups. However, despite its militant stance, the Black Panther Party also provided free breakfast for school children, sickle cell anemia screening, legal aid, and adult education. And that was some of the programs that they didn't want to be taking place either. They didn't like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, the 10-point program is something. You'd have to be a dummy not to stand behind this. You know what I mean? As a Black person, who wouldn't get behind this?
Especially in that time frame.
So let's ask ourselves a question. Out of the things that are on the 10-point program, where, if any, has any progress been made? Just asking the panel.
Okay, so I'm going to start with we want full employment of our people. I think that that's an area where we can get jobs now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think that the desire to work needs to be there. That's something that has to happen amongst our people, but the ability to be employed is there. It's there.
Right. Um, I think number one is one that I would say for me, I see that there being a change. And the reason why I say that is because absolute freedom, in my humble opinion, is an illusion. It's not something that you will ever gain in reality. And where it
I
says
think that was said on the
we
show
want
too.
the power to determine the destiny of our Black community, I say it all the time. We do have the power, but we can't be asking somebody else to give it to us. We have to know that the power already resides within us. And
Right.
that is about the closest you're going to get to absolute freedom is having that recognition.
Right.
And
Yeah.
there are plenty of Black people who have figured that out. So I think
And
that's
then,
one.
and number 5 is how they figured it out. By we want the education for our people to expose the true nature of our decadent American society. We want the education to teach our true history and the roles of the present day society.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's the
Well,
influence that we living in the age of information. That's why people know what's up.
so if we live in such an age of information, we know that it's at our fingertips. We know that we hear a lot of people talk about, oh, being woke. Okay. You know how people are, I'm woke, he's woke, she's woke. Woke being of a conscious mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if
Mm-hmm.
we're really woke, then what's stopping us from taking action?
Um, that goes back to what I was saying before about, people can say something, but that don't mean they really about it. Uh, maybe it's the football game, the basketball game, maybe it's Housewives of Atlanta, maybe it's BMF. There's too many things that we are allowing ourselves to be distracted by that prevent us from following through with the shit we talking about because we live in the age of information. Just for instance, look at all this shit we got on here and all you had to do was go on your phone and type in a keyword and blah, like this, it's all at our fingertips.
Right.
So it's either you want it or you don't.
So don't you think that the obligation goes back into the households to try to start there?
It does, but I think that's why it's so important to have these discussions because um, you're going to have a greater, or I don't, how can I say this? The results will be more favorable if it starts in the household with people that have children that are small children. You understand what I'm saying? Because now what you're putting in front of these children is the only thing they'll ever know, much like Tupac. You understand what I'm saying? This was his life. You can't take a kid that's 14, 15 years old whose mind has already been infiltrated by the shit that media exposes them to and say, oh, oops, my bad. I'm sorry for letting you develop some sort of liking to all this stuff. But now we're just going to wipe it off the slate and you're going to study how to be a powerful Black man.
But they can have, I mean, but you can always train some. Look at us. Look at our age. It's at our age that we have decided to take an interest in this. So it's never too late.
I'm not saying it's too late. What I'm saying is if you got a yard with nothing but fresh tilled ground and seeds that have been planted, you're going
Right.
to get better results than from a yard that's full of weeds and clover and crabgrass
Yeah.
and all
Oh
that
yeah.
other.
Oh yeah.
It's just better to start with the clean slate. You're going to get you're going to get a better yield out of that is all I'm saying.
Right. I get what you're
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah, because part of the reason why we have continued to spiral down this bad path as a people in the community and a race is because the older people refuse to adapt and do what's necessary. Like I said, we have this mentality. First of all, we we govern ourselves outside of the actual law, and that's why we're so in trouble with the law as a people. That's why our people are truly affected by the judicial system so bad, is because we're so outside of the law as a people.
Oh, that nigga's
let me read something. Let me read something to you guys.
That nigga ain't no real killer. That nigga ain't this. That nigga ain't that. It's like the way you measure a man is his willingness to say fuck his own life.
Let me read something to you guys. This was the FBI files against the Black Panther movement, the Black National Group. It says to consolidate their forces or to recruit new or youthful adherents must be frustrated. No opportunity should be missed to exploit through counterintelligence techniques the organizational and professional conflicts of the leadership of the groups, and where possible to in effect should be made a capitalized organization. When any opportunity is apparent to disrupt or nationalize Black nationalists, hate type organizations through the cooperation of established local news media contacts or through such damn, I forgot, lost my spot.
All right, what's that called? I'm gonna pull it up.
That's under the FBI files.
So
anyway,
we can be professional.
But it says it's to publicly and not merely publicize. The cooperation be given the techniques to provide violence and rabble rouser leaders and hate groups for spreading their philosophy publicly and through various means of communication by individuals currently active in the Black National Organization must have backgrounds in immorality, subversive activity, and criminal records. But it's just saying how they were doing every means necessary to discredit the Black National Group, the Black Panther Party.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And they knew that people would believe it because it's a practice that had been put into place, from the beginning of time. There's so much shit that has gone on in this country that the media portrays one way and the reality is a completely different story. They know that they can do this false flag shit, and basically by creating this false narrative, they get it in the minds of the majority of the public to accept what's about to be done to those people because they're bad people. They never made these kind of attempts to do anything to the Ku Klux Klan.
Right.
Oh, they actually let them off in trial constantly for their hellacious crimes and their
because they shared their sentiments. It's that simple. Yeah.
So if you took and so here's the funny thing. If you was to take and let's just put the KKK and the Black Panther Party side by side, and then let's say how many murders each group committed, how many atrocities each group committed, how many, how are they yet nowhere near? One is clearly more violent than the other one, and all hate, a straight up hate group. Yet you want to destroy the more passive group and promote the hateful group.
Well, yeah, because the hateful group promotes the ideologies and the sentiments that this country was built on, and the Black Panther group they promote the opposite of that. So, like, even if they say, "Oh, the Black Panther was killing police," okay, well, let's look at it for what it really.
Right? Did he go into his home and snatch him out for no reason?
Hear me out. Hear me out.
Police too, though.
Hear me out before you jump to conclusions. What I'm saying is, they weren't just killing. Oh, we're just gonna pick a cop out. These cops is coming into these neighborhoods with the intention of fucking somebody up. So it's like knowing that there's a wild tiger on the loose in your neighborhood. You're not going to get a gun and shoot that motherfucker down. It's the same thing. Just because he's got on a badge doesn't make it no different. His intention was to come devour somebody in your community.
And you stood up against the law. And he was also breaking the law.
Exactly. Whereas the KKK, they bombed churches and killed 4 innocent young Black girls. Where did that Black Panther Party do that at? How come ain't no co-intelligence program on them? Because they shared their sentiment.
Exactly.
They were aligned with the movement.
Well, and the thing that I thought that stuck to me also was when they said you can jail the revolutionary, but not the revolution. Mm-hmm. So even though they jailed them, even though they shut it down, the revolution still continues, and it's in us. It is up to us to pick up the pieces and try to figure out how to push this out here. And that's why it's important that we're doing the show today. This was it's a great topic. It's a great way for us to push the information. Somebody's going to watch, and somebody's going to now look up the FBI files that Saab was looking at. Somebody's going to watch and learn a little bit more about the 10-point program that they have. And we're sharing information for that purpose.
Shout out to the chat and the viewers. Can we get some likes around here, please?
Yeah, like, share, and subscribe. You know, the more y'all tap into the likes, the more traction we're going to get on these platforms, and the bigger we can grow this thing.
Yeah. Because we got an agenda of our own we're trying to push, okay?
Absolutely.
Well, it's always been a dream of mine to actually have, you know, a means to educate young Black men and make them employable and give them skills and ways where we can kind of corner our own business, you know, market kind of, you know, because basically we're just consumers in the United States at this point. We're not massively producing anything. The country's not leaning on Black folks to produce anything massively. You get what I'm saying? So that means we're not in power as far as we have no way to monopolize anything.
Real talk.
To you know, we don't have any ways to do that in our society, and except for the music industry, but even that
comes with limits and caps on it.
And then you hear about, that's why I frown upon the BET every time y'all say something about BET and this and this. Man, Negroes got enough money to buy 4 motherfucking BETs.
They do. You see all these, and that's what I meant when I said the distractions. You know, there's certain rappers that's like every time they're on social media, they're showing off one of their 27 cars. They're showing off their big mansion, and
they're showing off their gold chain, all the diamonds.
Yeah, but they don't give a fuck about Black folks. And
here's
Black folks running behind them saying, "That's who I want to be like."
Right. Well, Q put in the chat exactly distractions. Why would the enemy want us to focus on your people to get an upper hand in society?
Well, yeah, they don't want us to, but I'm saying
we gotta want to.
It's just like
have to understand that it is a distraction. That's the point. You know, we have to see it for what it is.
This might get us banned. It's just
oh shit.
What I'm about to say right now might get us banned. It's just like the NFL. Let's face it, man. And I don't care who says what. Blacks is the most superior athletes on this planet, at least in the United States. We can say that hands down. When are we gonna create our own NBA? When are we gonna create? Because we got all the players, we got all the best talent. So why are you sitting up here letting these people dictate whether you can flash a gun on Instagram or not? Why are you letting these people dictate whether you can put Black Fist up in the air without being suspended for 463 games and get your pay docked?
And don't dare take a knee. Don't dare take a knee.
Or don't stand up for that white national anthem.
I'm about to tell you why. Because the majority of these entertainers, record execs, whatever you want to call them, that are Black people in those positions, their position and their ability to make the money they make is contingent upon them keeping their lips glued to the asses of the white people in that industry. And that's the long and short of it. They're not finna ruffle no feathers for the sake of Black folks, because they like the tingly feeling that they get when they shove money up their ass.
Right now.
Oh my God.
Hey, look, right now, Jay-Z, P. Diddy, Tyler Perry, Oprah Winfrey, Kanye West, all these billionaire Black motherfuckers right now could start an expansion team of the Black Panther expansion team right now.
But no, they licking white ass is what they're doing.
And they'll win the Super Bowl every motherfucking season.
Right. Well,
every motherfucking season, they'll win the Super Bowl.
So to go back in what you're saying, though, and I agree with you on this, Deez, if you look at the group of the league that Ice Cube is trying to put together.
Exactly, the big three.
Nobody gives a fuck. Nobody wants to care about it. But we all know. Right. We all know exactly how Cube's mind thinks. He been saying America KKK, you know, so we know that he's got that mindset, but nobody's stepping behind him. There's no drive.
I know why they ain't stepping behind him. Because if you look at his professional career from the music business, everybody who he's ever fucked with in film and in music, he done fucked them over. Why would somebody be in a rush to come do business with him for the big three? Let's just call it what it is. I love Cube. He one of the niggas I'm talking about, though. He has an individualistic mindset. He can paint it out like he gives a fuck about people, but on his rise on the way up, making them films and doing these record contracts, he didn't do right by people. His reputation is tarnished.
Maybe Dub C, but he fucked over Caution. He fucked over Mac 10.
Mm-hmm.
He fucked over Chris Tucker.
Everybody in the Friday films.
Yeah, well, but that was the first one. That was on the first one. Let's just say, do we really believe that still, now that he's got some momentum and he's got some money behind him, that he's still making those moves?
Here's the point I'm making.
The big three is.
Why would we think he's any different? What has he done to show that he has grown from that?
The big three is a good thing because it allows athletes who are has-beens, to still go make some dough without going over to Japan.
Mm-hmm.
So
this is what I want to say. You got all this money, and why is it always they want to promote sports to the youth? Promote them that they could be a doctor, they could be a scientist, they could be
the biggest things that have been generating money for our people, and our people don't want to grit and grind for things. They want something that's simple.
They want a lottery. They want a
Let me tell you
lottery.
I won $33 on lottery tickets today.
In the FBI files, they had goals. They had goals that they inspired to prevent the Black Panther Party or any Black nationalist party to achieve anything that they were trying to do. And the number one was to prevent the coalition of militant Black national groups. The unity is there is strength. And truism is that
today, though.
Huh?
There's nothing stopping that as of today. The only thing stopping that today is our minds, our choice, our failure to do the thing. Like we said, like I said, the BET prime example. It ain't no goddamn struggle to get no motherfucking BET. Throw your goddamn money down and buy the fucking BET or build your own BET. We're not in a situation where we need to be trying to figure that out. Buy the shit.
Right.
Yeah, because when you see those kind of connections happen amongst previous rich people that are not people of color, they didn't feel that they had to share the same bed with a person just to go in business with them. And I mean that figuratively, obviously. I don't mean it literally, but you don't have to be completely aligned with a person's entire life in order to go in business with them. If you can align with their business practices and how they manage the money in their businesses, and you're all basically have the same goal to make this happen, go do it. Nobody said you have to be best friends.
Let me say this too.
Because Black folks is crazy,
I agree with you. Hold on. I agree with you. I agree with you because as I got to thinking about it, and I'm saying, well, damn, Tyler Perry already got Tyler Perry Studios. He already got
shit he's showing on Tyler Perry Studios.
Right. So hold on. So I got to thinking, I'm saying, well, damn, why would they need to buy BET if he already has an exit off the freeway in Atlanta? He already has all these acres. He already has Tyler Perry Studios.
But he's doing big shit.
They can film and make whatever they want. Why do you need BET at that point? So I agree with you, bro. I agree with you because after researching and looking, I'm saying, well, they really don't need BET because you got Tyler Perry Studios. It's already named after you. It's up to you to figure out what the fuck you want to show on that shit.
Right. And then, so here's 50 Cent. So here comes 50 Cent. He's about to do the same thing Tyler Perry did and build his own studio. But guess what he's also going to do? Show a bunch of shit that don't make a change. So they could come out with Family Matters on NBC Network or ABC or whatever it was, and it could be a simplistic Black family that's not rich, and we can have the everyday struggles portrayed, and they can portray our people. White people can portray us, and we'll watch those shows. But when it comes to us having our hand in portraying ourselves, now we have to be glamorous and rich and high heel shoes and gold and motherfucking scandalous fights and wigs flying all over the place and a bunch of do this motherfucker dirty shit going on.
Because I'm gonna tell you why. Let me say this. Because as soon as someone steps, this is how it is. As soon as someone gets themselves into the limelight, like how Pac was, or the Black Panther Party, or Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, as soon as they start making haste and trouble and putting the knowledge out there for maybe a little bit of unification, they're gonna get took out. Okay.
Not
and
true.
that's it, and that's all. They're going to
look,
take him out.
Look at Nipsey. Look at Nipsey. They took his ass out.
Here's my thing on that, and this is what I took away. The most prominent piece that I took away from the documentary is that Afeni said about Tupac that my son burned was a fire that burned bright white, and when things burn really hot, they burn out fast. But even though he burnt out fast, the fire burned so hot that look at what he left behind in the process of the burning. You can get killed walking your motherfucking dog. So if you get killed in the process of promoting something that your heart is connected to, so motherfucking be it. You're going to die anyway.
And well, that's
It's
the
just
whole
like
thing.
the Bill
People
Cosby
aren't
shit.
willing to die for it.
Right. Because he said, I'd rather die like a man than live like a coward. There's a ghetto up in heaven and it's ours. Black power is what we scream.
Okay,
Come
so
on.
look, Bill Cosby was about to buy, what was it, NBC? And then all these allegations showed up out of nowhere. Why do you think they felt so threatened by Bill Cosby owning NBC? You think what he was going to promote a bunch of Black Panther shit? Because he wasn't. What he was going to promote was blacks in a light that took the negativity and the stereotypes out of us. And
Yeah.
I would like to talk to you
exactly. He was
about some of the things that you do in your show.
right. He was about to portray.
It wasn't going to be a whole bunch of filth.
Think about, let's do it again. Uptown Saturday Night and those shows. It was a lot of unity and it showed powerful figures meeting up and figuring out a way to get over and build something for the people and this and this. You know, that's the angle that Bill Cosby was gonna take. 50 Cent ain't showing our people that shit. Tyler Perry ain't showing our
let's
people
give him a chance though.
shit.
Let's give him a chance.
No,
I'm
sorry.
Man.
That's part of the problem that we have as people. Fuck you and your chance, rich, sky-balling ass nigga. You've had the chances.
And we supported you and made you rich, bitch. So now you owe us. Now you owe us.
Give them a chance. Give them a chance for what?
Your chance was us making you
who they are, believe them. Somebody shows you who they are, believe them. Tyler Perry is a man who is enamored with playing a woman in his movies.
Right.
And anything else he presents to you is going to be comedy or God. That's not the recipe for change. Sorry.
Okay.
We can't laugh our way out of this shit.
Exactly.
We can't. It's because guess what?
It doesn't matter how powerful the black woman becomes without strong black men, she ain't going nowhere.
It's going to take the two of them. It's going to take black men and black women. And that's what we have on this panel is black men and black women who want to create change. One of the comments from Q, thank you, Q, because I see you out here. I see you, Woon. I see everybody in the chat. Look up the Southern Poverty Law Center, shows the groups deemed dangerous to society. Let's get a little bit.
I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah, let's get a little information.
No. Press that fucking slide on the screen. We ain't reading shit. This is a professional podcast.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm about to do it.
I'm just saying, before we get to reading it and all that, I want to see it with my own two eyes.
Okay.
And the viewers want to see it with their own two eyes.
And it says in there, KKK is not at the top. It's black groups that are non-violent that are at the top of this list. So again, the name of it is the Southern Poverty Law Center, shows the groups deemed dangerous to society. Let's put this shit out here.
Yeah, Tyler Perry had his chance. Everybody stood behind him and made him somebody.
It's been 20 some years already.
Sleeping in his car to being somebody. The only thing he wants to do, he's just like Steve Harvey. He wants to empower women and leave niggas behind. Look, bruh, it's a joint effort. If black men ain't shit, black people ain't gonna be shit. You get what I'm saying? There's no lifting our people out with a female face.
So I'm gonna go ahead and go to a different length, you know, and this might have to come up in another conversation, but there's something that's known as the Black Boule, and they have an agenda that is very much similar to that of the COINTELPRO. And I think some of these people that are pushing these envelopes they're either a part of that or they're influenced by it, because how do you just deliberately feed poison to your people?
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
50 Cent is one of them. Tyler Perry's another one. At this point, I don't know about Jay-Z.
I don't know. I'm looking up the hate map.
Bada bing, the boule is cold. Laugh out loud.
Groups.
We got to shine a light on that information. That because I never heard of the boule. I not that boule. At least I heard of a different boule, but not that. And these things, and they exist for a reason. And that's how they assign which black people get to be rich, which black shows get to go forward, which ones make it. So I'm definitely
they pick out who our leaders are, and that's why people be getting mad at me when I say the shit I say. But there's a reason why I be smashing on the Jesse Jacksons and the Al Sharptons and all, because you've been there, nigga. But there was, as we seen from this documentary, there was a whole lot of FBI informants that was there with the Panther 21. Fuck your presence. Yeah. What are you doing?
Right. That's true.
Your presence don't mean shit.
No. You know? Presence is more than just being there.
Yeah. General hate. I wish I knew what he
not
was
the cult leader. Not he's a cult leader though.
Right, because black people.
Yeah,
no, it's real shit though. It's real shit. Our people, when you kick real knowledge, it's not received. It's automatically a conspiracy, and it's not real.
And I'm glad that you said that. I'm glad that you said that. And while you're looking that up, Valley, I'm gonna say this too. I think that was one of the problems, one of the biggest problems that Tupac had. You know, early on, they were talking about in the Dear Mama series, they were talking about how a lot of the ladies they didn't want to talk to Tupac because they said he was too soft. You know, but of course, once you got to know him, you know, he was very intellectual. He become a ladies' man then. But because initially nobody was receiving his music, his music was talking about political power. His music was talking about equality originally. So nobody was paying it any attention. But it wasn't until he started saying the shit that he started saying differently is when people started paying attention. Mr. I Get Around. Okay, that's something that everybody could listen to. That's something he's not talking about political power. So we'll let him slip through the cracks. But I believe by just having the name Shakur, he had a bullseye on his back. They never meant for him to get his words out. And the amount of music that he shared, I love Tupac all the way from Brenda's Got a Baby, from some of the songs off of Trapped, you know, but that's not when I first fell in love with Tupac. Tupacalypse. By then I started falling in love with Tupac, and then the things that came out afterwards. But I could see him changing just because he wanted to get out there. He wanted to, you know, push his music so bad. He said, I'm going to get it out there and then I'll push my narrative. But if you think of it like that, you get out there and then they killed you. So you never got to push your narrative.
Well, he got out there, and then there was push obstacles in his path,
right?
Constantly throwing stuff in his path to trip him over, so he couldn't continue that. That was the whole mission, to stop the Black Messiah, to stop him from putting anything out there that might stir up anything that they might could unify from. Any disturbance that he was putting inside of them, so that they could unite. They had to stop it.
Originally, they said that on his birth certificate, he wasn't even named Tupac Shakur at first on his birth certificate because they wanted to protect him. They believed he was like a messiah. They believed because of how strong Afeni was in the movement that they needed to protect her child. And so, it makes you wonder, even if you think about her getting onto drugs and things like that, how it sidetracked her from the movement. It sidetracked her
intentional.
Exactly. And one of the things I wanted to point out, which I had wrote it down here too, is that there began to be problems amongst the group, from national and local leaders. Once the Panther 21 was in jail and they had raised up all that money, specific people weren't the ones that they were letting out of jail. And so that was another thing that I found to be a little bit, I was like, okay, they were trying to divide the group from the gate. Once they found out how strong and powerful it was and it had reached 32 different cities, they were like, oh no, we got to stop this shit. And what happened?
Something is wrong with my shit. Now I can't get none of my slides. Like the whole list is just gone. I don't know.
Because I'm gonna tell you something right now.
Powers to be.
Yeah, we continue to talk about this and going researching these FBI files and all this and that kind of stuff. They see all that.
I can see it on my phone, but I can't get to it when I go to pull it up on StreamYard.
I just got a thing on my phone said these are forbidden. These are forbidden files.
That is crazy.
And now it's not here. It said Facebook forbidden something. And now it's not on my phone.
Khalil Willis said Lassane Crook or something like that. Does anybody know what he means?
Did they say that in the
his birth name, his Lassane.
Okay, but I'm saying, but did they say that in the documentary though? Because I've heard this stuff before, but I don't remember that being mentioned in the documentary.
I didn't hear it mentioned in the documentary, but I
have heard in the documentary, his mama said straight up, I named my son Tupac Amaru because
after the
it was the people from a dude from history from Peru, and then somebody
from
else.
A Sumerian from Peru. He was the last chief. Is that
exactly? She wanted him to know that Black people weren't the only people that had met this sort of whatever you call it, obstacles or whatever, I mean, for lack of a better term. So that's what it said in the documentary. That name y'all talking about, that shit that's been floating around the internet, but I've never heard that confirmed from within his camp.
His mama says she named him Tupac behind that warrior, the last warrior who was.
I told you his name was Tupac Amaru from Peru. His mama named him Clay. I'm gonna call him Clay.
Yeah, and he was cheap.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go back and watch it again because like I said, I've been
you start picking up stuff. That's the thing, because first time I watched it I watched 1 through 4. Boom, 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 boom. I started watching it.
They said it was from an older documentary.
And then I watched 5, and then I went back and started rewatching it. But it's so much information, you have to take notes, or you'll forget. Because, not you'll forget. I won't remember it all, which is why I started just taking all kinds of notes about it, and how it all played out. Because it's like, it's pulling at a part of me. Sis, how we felt about Tupac. Like, they know we love the fuck out of Tupac. I mean, for real. And it just tripped me out because it kind of did take a back burner. My love from I don't even play Tupac like I used to play Tupac. I mean, I still play it.
His real name was Lassane Parrish Crook.
That's what they say.
I'm gonna tell you something right now. When I finished watching, before 5 ended, I was in my house bawling, tears coming out of my face like he had passed away yesterday.
It was definitely took you there. When you sent me a text and you said you didn't tell me this shit was gonna have me crying like he just died today, and it was very touching. But I like I said, I loved every minute of it. I thought they did a great job. I think that Alan Hughes I think Alan Hughes did a great job with it. And I'm not just gonna sign off on everything. I think that he did a good job with the docuseries.
And you know, his mother, she was just so deep. And she opened the center up in Georgia.
That didn't last.
And she wasn't some punk bitch just out here running around fucking off.
And it's a shame that it didn't last because all of these Black people who have money couldn't contribute to any. I mean, like the ones on the dock, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, they could have contributed to the center. You know, I like Snoop Dogg, love Snoop Dogg, but he doesn't give back enough to the community.
He's just like Master P. He's no. He's concerned about selling you something. That's what his mission is to sell you something.
I'm not going to compare him to Master P because Master P, he is crooked as they come. I love P.
Here's one thing that's for sure about Snoop. He's still worried about gangster imagery. Shut your old ass up, nigga. Like, how do you still think that's important?
It's gangster imagery because
LA, that's why.
Okay, but here's what I'm saying though.
From LA. That shit is important in LA.
Okay.
Might not be important nowhere else on the planet, but that shit is important in LA.
That's fine. Let it be important in LA. What I'm saying is, I guess that means they can't be a part of the Panther movement because it's not fucking important in the grand scheme of things. I don't give a fuck where you live.
Yeah. And that's why the Black Panther Party that was helping Tupac up until he got with Death Row Records, they cut off ties with that nigga when he got with them because they was like, oh hell no.
No, what happened is they were planning to bail him out. Let's tell the story correctly. They were planning to bail him out, and then Suge came with this big shiny fool's gold, and that's what happened. And then he ended up allowing Suge
on Tupac though. Suge, man, I'm not blaming.
I'm not saying it's not on. Nobody said they blame Suge, nigga.
I'm not blaming Suge for that.
I'm not saying I blame Suge. I'm saying because I don't blame him for bailing him out. I appreciate that he bailed out Tupac, but the type of atmosphere that he placed him in was a hostile work environment.
So what? He came from a hostile beginning. And that's, I mean,
so he succumbed to it by that time. He was tired.
We might not have got what we got. You might not be singing one All Eyes on Me song.
You wouldn't be singing it.
Not have bailed him out. The shit that we legacy in him right now probably wouldn't even exist right now.
But so had the Panthers have bailed him out, maybe he would have made a whole different book one and book two.
No.
Get him out.
I'm gonna tell you the only reason why
there was a double CD. That's how it would have went down.
The only reason why there was a double CD is because
he was trying to speed up the process.
He was able to knock down 2 of the 3 albums of the Commitment in one drop. So if he hadn't been with Death Row, we would have never got All Eyes on Me. He wouldn't have fucked with Dre. Like Diesel said, we wouldn't even be having this conversation about him the way we are from a musical standpoint. And that's just facts. That's what it is.
Who put out Machiavelli?
It was on Death Row. That was the final. That was his final project.
The 5 albums were All Eyes on Me, Until the End of Time, and Machiavelli. Those were the 5 projects for Death Row.
But I thought he only had 3.
It was a 3 project.
Well, he did 5.
They continue to put stuff out. But those are posthumous albums, though. Could they put that together with all the music that he had? His commitment, his obligation was fulfilled with Machiavelli.
Right. So who put out Tupac and the Outlaws? Was that on Death Row as well?
No, I don't think so.
That was Interscope, I think.
Interscope, okay.
Suge went and fought with Tupac's mama about the music, which no real
did. Right. And that's where, because even like when they were saying at in the fifth show, how after he died and Afeni found out that he didn't even own the home in Calabasas that they were all living in, she moved up out of there and she began to fight to try to get his masters and stuff like that.
Yeah, and she went and purchased property where he's buried at now. Or
I had to
supposedly
do it.
there is.
I had to do it another way because I don't know what the fuck is going on with Google Slides. But you
I'm
see how
telling you what
far
it is.
down. You see how far down the Ku Klux Klan is. You know what
I
I mean?
see.
Yeah.
And even one of the comments was laugh my ass. Of course, when the truth comes out, they snuff it. You know what I mean? So for whatever reason, and we can try to shrug it off, but we know the powers that be don't want this shit to become available.
So look what's important. Anti-immigrant. They not
Wow.
they're not talking about immigrants from Africa. They protecting them ones that they giving all these loans to, the Asians and the Russians and the Indians and all of them. That's top of the list. Anti-LGBTQ. That's top of the list.
That's
Anti-Muslim. Anti-Semitism, which if you look up that word, I don't give a fuck what it's popularly believed to be.
People of color.
That's people of color. So that right there is just outright lie anyway. But the Christian identity, general hate music, then you get to the Klan. This shit right here was crazy to me. Male supremacy. But people will say that nobody's really tripping off of men being men. Damn.
right. They're
Made the
pushing the
list.
narrative. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like my
Crazy.
friend said the
I'm
other
gonna
day.
tell you why though. It's real simple. Men being supreme is what's kind of like how the conversation is going right now. By people having that is going to push them to make their own agendas and break free of previous agendas. So they want male supremacy gone because if males become drones, so to speak, and you know what, we're all going to paint a 2-story house, all artists, all men, blue 2-story house, white picket fence, a dog, and a motherfucking scarecrow in the yard. That's what everybody's painting is going to be. That's what America's trying to do to men. They want all men to stand down.
And here's the reality of it. It doesn't matter how anybody feels about it. And this is why some of the movements we're talking about were so powerful because of the masculine presence. Masculinity is more necessary for survival than femininity. And that's not a dig. But here's the evidence of that. When a woman is left alone to fend for her children, she develops more masculine traits in order to survive. That's how you know. That right there is the proof that masculinity is a greater element, necessary element for survival than femininity is. So with all these people that are sociologists and these people are psychologists and shit, they know what they're fighting for and for what reason. If they know that masculinity is necessary for the survival of a people, of course they're going to attack the men. Don't you dare stand up and say you're proud and have your chest poked out and you'll fight in war, for your family or for your people. We gunning that shit down because that might trickle down to your sons and grandsons and your daughters and all this. And now everybody rallying behind you and your movement when we want you to sit your black ass down.
Right. And it started from when they sent all them black men to war and they fought in the war and they won the war. And then they came home from the war and it was like, I don't give a fuck if you was in the war. You still a nigga and we don't give a fuck about you.
Right.
That's what Muhammad Ali was talking about.
Exactly.
That's why he didn't go.
That's why he didn't go, and that's why he had a whole conversation about why he didn't want to go.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Because he said they ain't never did this over this to me. He said, right here in my own country, I motherfuckers hate my guts.
Yeah.
What I'm supposed to do, go over here and fight in this war and then come back and get called a nigga as soon as I land off the plane?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Killing innocent kids. You know, they don't care about nobody. They don't even care about white people if they don't got no money. The whole thing is about power. It's all about power.
It is about power.
And they're giving these people over there this war money. It's agenda behind that too.
Well, I think,
So here's the agenda that everybody's missing. It's called the means of production. Whoever has the most valuable shit, these motherfuckers, Americans, is trying to take it, period. And that's why they arm people across the globe to get to overthrow governments out there that control the means of production. You know what I'm saying? That's the agenda. It's deeper. It's not about color and race. It's having control of all the Earth's best resources.
Yeah, the color and race shit is a distraction to keep the people on our level focused on something other than what they're doing. You know, and there's a multitude of ways that they distract us. There's race, there's religion, there's classism, there's all kind of shit. But the reality is, the shit America is doing, it's no different than what Alexander the Great did. It's no different what the Egyptians did when they went from one land to another. It's about world domination.
Mm-hmm.
And they have already told us that by the way they honor the ancient Egyptian symbolism and all the shit that they do. That's a whole nother conversation though. But it's never just going to be as simple as you're black and I'm white. That's just a lie that they have told to the common white people. And those common white people breathe it out into society. Common black people fight back against it. Meanwhile, we're so busy fighting with each other, we don't see what's going on upstairs.
Right. The real picture.
Yeah. We down here on the first level of the building, and right there, the second floor, they sitting up looking. Yeah, we still got control. It's all good. We can keep doing the shit we doing up here.
So what was one of the biggest takeaways that you took away from the Dear Mama docuseries about Tupac, his relationship with his mom, his industry, him being in the industry? What was the biggest takeaway that you got from it?
It's funny because, you know, Tupac was obviously older than me. So looking at him before, it was like, you know, you looked up to him. Now looking back and looking over all that information and me being a more mature man, I couldn't help but, you know, like my heart went out to him in a lot of shit because I've been where he was at that time. I'm past that now and can look back at it in my own life. So, you know, people be like, oh, well, why did Tupac do this? And he got involved with this and he was saying MOB and he running with the Bloods and he beat niggas up in the casino. I probably would have been doing it if I was a rich rapper because I was doing it just a nigga out here.
Right.
In that same age. So like my heart went out to him like, damn, you know, you had the world at your fingertips and you were still sick with the same disease as the rest of us.
That's what it all boiled down to. Initially, I don't think it started out that way, but I think it that's what it become from all the things.
It grew into that because he felt like, man, I'm trying to do something good and they're still trying to knock me down. And then they're doing this to me and saying this about me. Fuck it up. Fuck y'all.
Yeah. I think he probably wasn't he was naive in some ways. That's another thing I noticed, you know, because he said something like, I really believed that my people would never do no harm to me. Like, that's what I mean. Like, my heart went out to him like, damn, bro, I'm sorry that you ever allowed yourself to believe in that.
Right. Yeah. That definitely was a big one.
Yeah.
One of the things that struck me too was Afeni was saying her hate for prison, and that if she ever failed her son, it was in that way was that that he ended up in prison. But again, that was the gun violence awareness is one of the things that I want to make known. And no, I'm not pushing the agenda of us not having the right to bear arms. I would never say that. But I do think that gun violence awareness is something that we need to pay attention to. And that was one of my takeaways from it was that Afeni was at the end, she was just saying her son, yes, she's mourning the death of her son, but she's mourning alongside of plenty of mothers who lose their children. So that was just like something that stuck with me. It was like, damn, after all that he was meant to bring all this change, that he had all this information, yet still ended up a statistic of an unsolved murder.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to, you know, something I was saying earlier about, you know, feeding the different whether it be rappers or people that put together films, shows, that type of shit, feeding the poison to our people. And what I mean by poison is, it's stuff that's centered around conflict and drama, because these deaths that are happening in the Black community at the hands of young people, and they're using guns to do it. What it ultimately boils down to is a lack of conflict resolution skills. Oh, nigga, you ain't finna. Hey, hold on. I wish a nigga would. Bitch, ain't nobody. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is what it is ingrained in us. So when we find ourselves in real life scenarios, what do people always do? It's a natural human thing to revert to your training, to what you know. And when you're watching these programs, like it or not, it's training you on how to deal with the scenarios that are unfolding in front of you. Conflict resolution is the real problem. Can I walk up to a man and express my distaste with something that was said without completely disrespecting him? Am I going to give him enough consideration to know he's human just like me?
That's right.
He might be looking for an opportunity to make it right. But if I address him with my chest out, I'm not giving him that opportunity. You understand what I'm saying?
Oh, I definitely understand.
That's the number 2 or 3 or 4 that when you're trying to get a job, they ask you, do you have conflict resolution skills? How to settle something? Do you know how to do that? That's key in everything. You have to be able to be rational and be smart about certain situations, and they're not teaching that, period.
Yeah.
But and again, I'm not sure that I think it's something that has to be taught, because we all, as people who are employed, we know that when we get to work, we can't go punch our bosses in the face as soon as they say something out of pocket. Now, each and every one of us on the panel has wanted to punch our boss in the face, but because we understood that this is your livelihood, that you need this money, that you need this job, that you need to advance, you're able to balance it out. Have that same motherfucking balance on the streets.
You're not going to have it. And here's the reason why. Because of what you just said. You need the job. It's your livelihood. You need this money.
You need your freedom too.
No. You don't need it. You don't need it. And here's the reason why you don't need it. Because let's face it, motherfuckers glorify going to the pen. Motherfuckers glorify, I knocked down these years and it was nothing and I bounced back. It's glorified. It's damn near, no, I'm telling you, it's damn near viewed as a rite of passage.
Fuck all that.
You can talk to some people. Listen, you can talk to some people that have spent time in prison, and they'll say prison isn't necessarily a bad thing. It can teach you. Like, I'm telling you, the mentality is fucked up.
That is crazy to me. Having been a person who had never been to jail before and went to jail and spent 9 months in the county jail out of state, baby. No. It's nothing pretty about it. It's nothing pretty about it. Especially you going and facing a large amount of time. It's just not something. It's nothing cute about it. So I'm just encouraging everyone to be aware. It's
nothing cute being able to be told to when you can wash your ass, when you can eat, when you can go outside. That's it. That's your freedom. That's important as fuck. Okay.
It's the wake up part. Like when Dee said, you go down and you do some shit and you get caught up for it. And every morning you wake up, you got to snap back to the reality of, oh yeah, that's right. I did this.
Was it worth it?
You wake up and see them motherfucking concrete walls around you and you remember, oh yeah, that's right. I did this.
When that child bell goes off at an ungodly hour, right? You know, if you don't get up and go eat that bullshit, you're gonna starve.
Yeah. Bullshit is right too.
They serve you some beans with some little white shit coming out the side of it like a little tail, and you're like, if I don't eat this, I'm gonna be hungry. That's not okay. You don't know what the hell.
That's the first time I ate some peas. I don't eat no goddamn peas, but I ate peas when I was in that motherfucker. I told them peas up.
Like I said, you can eat every drop of that shit and you still gonna be hungry because it ain't
for real.
It's only enough to keep your ass alive.
Right. Right. So they can continue to get money for your ass.
Yeah, well, you are worth more to them there, and that's why I said that is one of my takeaways. When Afeni said that because she sat in prison, but she sat in prison for a cause. So that's the difference too. There's a huge difference in going to jail for a worthy cause and standing for something or falling for anything. What she did was admirable.
Well, the judge lady, I can't think of her name, but she had the little judge show. She was talking to a group of young girl. I don't want to say young. They looked like they was adults. They were full grown adults in the crowd. But she was talking to a group of younger black individuals, and she was talking about how she has seen uh how she's had to sentence, black people to go do time. And that the one in particular she mentioned was like, oh yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go to do this course and go do this class, this whatever. Just give me the year in jail. You know what I mean? And what she was saying was that our people are not emotionally fit to make the decisions that are necessary to keep us out of this business of prison. And then she went on to say, we used to pick cotton and now we are the cotton. You understand what I'm saying? Because
I
prison
think
is
it
an
was
industry.
Judge Lynn Toller who said that. I want to say it was.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. So prison is an industry.
Big
That's it.
industry.
We already know what with the 13th Amendment. I think it's the 13th Amendment where when slavery was abolished, except for in prison, except for the purpose of prison. You cannot hold somebody as a slave or work without labor without pay, except for as punishment and through imprisonment.
And
Which
so
is
that's why they're
like,
trying to put as many.
People have the nerve to ask the dumbass question: why is there so many black people in jail? Grow a brain, motherfucker.
which is completely, which what you said is which is completely and totally unconstitutional.
Right.
Who gives a fuck about the loophole?
Right.
It's
But ain't nobody fighting to do nothing about that though. There's more pressing.
When I was locked up, I told motherfucker on the yard one time, I said, man, everybody in this motherfucker got a lawsuit right now.
Oh, on my nice.
Because we all in here under cruel and unusual punishment. Motherfuckers thought I was crazy.
You don't have no rights when you're behind their walls, though.
Yeah, they done violated every single last one of our constitutional rights.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly.
That's why when they sent Pop to jail, they sent him to the one that they sent him to because they was trying to break him all the way down. Okay?
And which is why it made it so easy for him. Like nobody wants to say, conspiracy theorist shit about Suge, and we're not going to do that. But I'm just saying, at that time, he was in the most vulnerable state in a horrific place. He would have signed with Satan himself if he would have showed up.
He did.
Tupac,
I think he did the right thing by signing with Death Row.
I think he did
I didn't say he didn't.
I don't think that was his demise. His demise was he fell victim to the same thing that millions of young black people fall victim to every year. He was enamored with the California gang culture, and he got wrapped up in. That's what it was. When he was hollering out MOB, where you think Suge was from? Mob, Pyru.
Well, yeah, that's what his mom said. That's what his auntie said at the end of the.
That's what it was. We love him to death. We can't hide the reality. That young black man came to California and was enamored by the gang culture. And it built something in him to try to behave in a way that he had never behaved before.
And he went straight to South City.
Why wouldn't he be enamored when these niggas is getting $100 million in 9 months?
Right.
Deez, did you have any takeaways from the series that you wanted to bring to point?
It's all the same for me. I've had my opinions, and as far as Black Panthers and all that shit, I've been doing my research on that as well. Because as we all know, I've had plenty of time to read over the years, so I ain't missed a step as far as any of that goes. COINTELPRO included, you know what I'm saying, and probably a lot of other shit that that wasn't discussed today. But basically, he shouldn't have approached Orlando in that casino, and Because either way it goes, there's two reasons why he shouldn't have did it. Even if he didn't get shot, he violated his bail at that time. So even if he doesn't get shot, we're gonna lose Tupac to jail as well. Like either way it goes, Tupac made a like an irreparable mistake by doing that. Even if he didn't get killed, it was too heavy of a mistake for him to make at that time in his career in life. You get what I'm saying? So I'm not gonna, and like I said, I'm not gonna feed the conspiracy theorists because there ain't no way in hell Suge said, "Here, point this 45 caliber at my head and graze me with it."
I don't believe.
There ain't no way Suge said that.
Well, I used to think that until you said that scenario to me the other day, and it's like, you're right. Okay, I'm gonna look at it differently now.
Yeah, no.
All you gotta do is know how bullets work. Nobody's gonna willingly sit in the car next to a target with bullets being fired
that can go through that person and into you.
You're in a line of fire. Nobody's doing that.
Well, and for the longest, when it first happened, I did not believe Tupac was dead, and then I watched a documentary with his aunt on there a long time ago, and she said it's funny to me when I hear people say Tupac is alive. He wouldn't have been able to be quiet. Yeah,
that was Shock G. That was dude from Digital Underground that said that.
No, it was a lady.
Well, it was true. He wouldn't have been quiet that long.
He got to say something.
The movies and watched that together. I can't think of what it's called right now, but it was the one that came out in the theaters.
And Rose that Grew from Concrete.
And somebody else watched that.
Resurrection.
Yeah.
So
what I took from the documentary series is that time is not promised to nobody, and you have to try and do what you can to make a mark for your people up under you to follow by. It's important. You have to do your part. That's what I got.
Yeah, he had such a bright future ahead of him if he could have weathered the storm.
Yeah.
And I think that's why Nipsey resonates the way Nipsey resonates, because it's the same identical situation of brightness and star quality and, being a handsome young brother and having every avenue covered, basically.
Right.
These is brothers right here that had the world for the taking in their hands, you know what I'm saying, and had it ripped away from them because motherfuckers is, the same way they did Malcolm X, basically killed him when he was 33 or some shit like that. And and
I like to think of Nipsey as like somehow picking up the baton, kind of where Tupac left off. He actually was able to get the marathon clothing. He was actually in the process of making the building for the children to come to and use the computers. And so it's like, now who picks it up from here? We gotta wait another
30 years again.
Yeah,
that's
we'll be getting AARP, and then we'll be talking about it. Whoever the nigga is, because that's how it goes. It goes in cycles. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. You see how long it took.
We regressed as a people when they took Nipsey. We regressed as a people when they took Tupac.
For sure.
Those type of incidents set us back.
They did.
There's no way somebody could just pop.
And you know what? It's funny you say that, because I agree with you wholeheartedly. My love for Pac, like I said, I was wounded. Y'all know how I felt about Tupac. And back then, I couldn't believe. But I knew it's so crazy, because when he got shot and I heard that he had got shot, I was like, he's not going to make it. Like, the spirit animal in me knew he wasn't going to get shot that many times and survive again. I just didn't think he was going to pull through. Then I got to thinking, okay, he's not dead. But with Nipsey, I didn't follow Nipsey as much or as hard as I did Pac. I mean, I knew all things Pac. I didn't know all things Nipsey. So, but I was getting into Nipsey. But the more that I found out about him after he had passed away, I just was blown away. And to live in one lifetime and watch two artists have that. And there's so many other artists have passed away, but those two touched me for what their knowledge was that they would have been able to share with our community.
Because we're talking about people who just so happen to be artists.
Right.
They were who they were already.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
All I knew about Nipsey is that he was always talking some real super gamed up shit.
Yeah.
That's all I knew about Nipsey. How could I not
intelligent.
gravitate toward that? This
Yeah.
nigga
Right.
was kicking pure game every time he fucking jumped on the track. Every time he said something off the record. Every time that nigga opened his mouth, it was some real game coming out that motherfucker. That's why I fucked with Nipsey.
Real shit.
Right.
Real shit.
Right.
Let me say this. The number 4 goal for the FBI was to prevent militant Black national groups and leaders from gaining responsibility by discrediting them, the 3 separate segments of the community. And the goal of discrediting Black national groups must be to handle tactically in 3 ways. First, to discredit those groups and individuals of that group. Secondly, to the responsible Negro community, whoever's doing positive shit or who's got things going. Third, to discredit them in the white community, to make sure that they look a certain way in the white community so that they can continue to spread the racism.
They're going to try to discredit this nigga's whole body of work, whole line of accomplishments because he slapped the motherfucker. Are you fucking serious?
Yeah.
Slapping the motherfuckers that serious? I don't think so.
Favorite Tupac song?
Can't name one.
If you can narrow it down. Exactly. I was like, how do you narrow it down?
I got to go back to the one that made me a Tupac fan, and that's A Soldier Story.
That's one of my all-time favorites too.
And I'm going to tell you how much of a favorite it was that I actually imitated the whole get down on one of my songs that I had did with D's, but he was locked up when I had the opportunity to record it. So I spit his verse in an altered voice, just like the altered voice that was on the song Soldier Story. Because Pac, he had one verse of it where he was like, he rapped in an altered like devil type voice or whatever, and then he rapped in his own voice. And so I did the same thing on a track with me and D's until he was able to get out later and relay it. But nonetheless, Soldier Story is my all-time favorite.
Soldier Story
basically
is a version of Jonathan and George Jackson, and where Jonathan goes to break his big brother George out of prison. That's what Soldier Story, and that's why I say about these artists, Little Baby ain't never gonna say something that relevant on none of his records.
Pac was so political from day motherfucker. That's his debut album.
That's why
debut album.
One of the songs that was always my song is Pain from the Above the Rim soundtrack, but it's only on certain ones. Like some people have never even heard the song Pain, but I couldn't help but notice your pain. My pain, it runs deep. Share it with me.
Me Against the World was one of my favorite albums.
Hold Your Head was like one of my songs too. I don't know. It's so many like I love a lot of Tupac's shit, but
I like Outlaw with him and Dramacidal. That's one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah, that's one of mine too. Outlaw until the end of time was the one. It was good. I love.
Lost Souls give me goosebumps.
Yeah.
Lost Souls make me want to drive my car at 150 fucking miles per hour.
Man.
That's why when the dude said that he was listening to Tupac and it made him want to do that, that's why I didn't elaborate on that, because Tupac had that type of emotion in his songs. And he
absolutely
was capable of making you jump out of your character. I'm not going to front.
I tell you, I didn't have a hate for Biggie. But when Hit 'Em Up came out, I swear, I just loved Tupac and everything he breathed into that song. I was just like, so I understand how the music could make you feel a certain way because it gave you that feeling. Like it depends the mood I'm in. If I listen to too much Tupac, I'm gonna become a rebel without a cause. Like so.
Man, we only got 3 likes. That's crazy.
People used to say.
So what that means?
People used to say, "Oh shit, she's listening to Tupac. We better leave that bitch alone." Because
what the 3 likes means is these other people have been camera devices.
Well, we never know. Well, we
That's
got
what it
something to
is.
say. We're not gonna
No,
stop.
it ain't that. I already know what it is. People like shit that they feel like is gonna align with who they are and the people
All
who
right,
follow
well,
them.
here it goes. Big booties, pistols and gun smoke.
No.
Money.
Fuck all that. If that's what they want to do, fine. Because again, if I sit down and I make barbecue,
Eskimo wives.
I'm not trying to make a nigga who hates pork come eat my barbecue. This ain't for
Right.
you. I didn't cook this
So
for
for
you.
everybody who's actually on, anybody, if you are watching, listening, or hearing this voice right now, stop what you're doing, hit the
And
like
hit the
button.
like button or get the
That's
hell
it.
out of here.
It's just that simple. It's just that simple.
But also,
Hey,
if
hey,
it's
all eyes on me. All
but
eyes on
also,
mine.
also, if it's something that you want to talk about, shoot it out to us, and maybe we can have a discussion on it if it's something that you want to talk about.
But definitely, we are here, and we're gonna stick to bringing information to you guys. We're gonna continue to grow our knowledge amongst ourselves, and we're not gonna keep it. We're gonna continue to share it. And of course, if you have any input, put it in there. Well, let us research it. Let's talk about it. This is how we evoke change.
Well, I know one thing: when we all need to look at those files from the FBI. Boy. I mean, we already know.
I'm that's what I'm saying. None of that shit is new to me. I didn't read it through and through. Yeah. I mean, so if anybody hasn't,
it's a book called COINTELPRO, and basically it's what you're talking about, Kasabi. It's all the pages of that shit.
Yeah, none of this shit is new. But so
okay,
if anybody hasn't read it, then I would encourage you to do so. But there's some of us on the panel and even in the comments that are 15, 20 years up on that shit.
Right.
Well, some of you
But
are.
then you got to go all the way back to 1997, 97, 98. I was reading that shit.
Important books that you would recommend for people who want to learn more about this that were our topics today.
Shit, I don't know.
One book.
Read Soledad Brother with about George Jackson and Jonathan Jackson. Read Soledad Brother.
Okay, so the one I read about George Jackson was called Blood in My Eye, but it wasn't an act. It was more of a collection of letters that was written between him and his brother and a couple of other people. But it did give like a direct insight into his mind frame and the shit that he went through. And for people that don't know, George Jackson was somebody that was he was sentenced to 1 year to life in prison, and they kept him in there for years on end. And
27, I think it was 27 years or some shit.
Yeah, and
then they eventually killed him in there. Shot him on the
Mm-hmm.
yard, let him out to the yard all by himself, and then killed him.
Yeah. So
talking about he had a gun in his afro.
Oh, the shit they say, boy.
He walked in there and pulled a gun out of his afro, and they say he threw a prison guard off the tier and killed him. There's a lot of shit going on with George Jackson, but it was the Quentin. I want to say it was the Quentin Six, W.L. Nolan, George Jackson, Johnny Spain, a couple other brothers, but it was 6 of them all together, and basically they were all Black Panthers in there, and they were political prisoners at the time. You know what I'm saying?
I'm amazed at the amount of knowledge that you guys have, and I think that we got to keep doing this for that reason alone, to be able to share some of that information, because I haven't read that stuff, and that's why I wanted you guys to holler out some stuff, because I think it is important, and we do have an obligation as host of a show to share that type of information, because people don't they may not know where to start.
Yeah, no doubt.
Them was the type of brothers you look up to. That's all I know.
Yeah. I mean, you got to think this dude's younger brother came and attempted to break him out. So
and it was L Splash Roger activities.
Yeah. It wasn't no little sneak in and snip the wire and creep over the red laser type breakout. It was
It was an intricate plot.
It was shotguns being taped to judge's head.
Exactly. It was all in crack. You know, and again, we not promoting that.
I need to read
that.
that.
Say that, like, I think some of the brothers of the past was cut from a different cloth than these so-called tough guys of today's era. That's all I'm gonna say.
That's why they're so easily inserted in the booty. Okay.
They had the kamikaze. They had a kamikaze mentality back in the day. Niggas would die for the cause back in the day, and that's nowadays. The brothers that call themselves hardcore, they don't want to die. They'd rather sit up in a cell, or they don't never see actually coming to an end as part of the plot for the people that come behind them. You get what I'm saying? They want their little chicken survival so bad.
So it's like the quote you said from Tupac earlier. I'd rather die like a man than to live like a coward. So that was a spinoff from Huey P's notion, which was I'd rather die on my feet than to live on my knees. And I mean, it just takes a certain type of resolve to say, if I ever find myself in this sort of situation, I'll die first before I accept that. You know,
exactly. And in order to do that, you have to be the type of person that has several bridges crossed in your head before the actual situation happens. You have to
many rivers to cross.
You have to know. You have to know. If this happens, I'm doing this. If that happens, I'm doing this. If this takes place, I'm doing this.
Right.
That way, when it come time, you ain't sitting up thinking about what the fuck you gonna do. I done crossed this bridge in my head many a times. It's time for this activity to take place.
Yeah. I mean, you know, like so with Huey P, what he wound up doing time for one of those times where, you know, was and if you haven't seen the movie Panther, go on ahead and watch that, because like I said, it has a cinematic twist to it, but it highlights a lot of the key important shit that took place. So
I just feel like I watched it and forgot the whole thing.
You might have, because it's old.
I may have watched it and don't remember it, because that happens a lot.
Like in the mid '90s, some point, something like that.
Definitely,
so, the thing with Huey P, him and another guy got into an altercation with the police, and guns came out, and them niggas got it in, and he did. One of the cops never made it home. He didn't get back up. Right. You understand what I'm saying? So
that's when it was all war. Was after that.
Yeah, you know, but I'm saying all this to say though, like if you're somebody that has crossed the bridges that Diesel was talking about, it's like, okay, here it is. This cop thinks he's gonna brutalize me, beat the shit out of me, kidnap me, take me off somewhere in the woods right here, and then kill me.
Right.
No, you got to kill me right now.
Yeah.
Because I'm going for mine. I'm gonna get that gun up out you.
You gotta kill me right now. I ain't getting off of nobody's trunk.
Yeah, you ain't stuffing me in no trunk.
Khalil Too Solid said that it was a super hard question, but Holla at Me is up there. And Holla at Me was one of my favorites.
And too. Changes too.
Oh, he loved Changes too, so that's one of his favorite too.
Pac is just, you know, I don't anybody who ever says Pac wasn't wasn't, man. Tell me somebody else who spit game like him. He
wasn't a real nigga based on a superficial observation. You know what I'm saying? Motherfuckers is coming at it with a superficial observation. Yeah, he wasn't from LA. He wasn't from Oakland. He wasn't from blah, blah, blah. But like I said earlier, how many of us sitting right here could go to the depths and trenches of these ghettos all across the United States and be accepted the way he is?
And that's what they sure was trying to make some music with his ass. Okay.
Well, and I mean that, oh, he wasn't from here, he wasn't from there. Well, spoiled ass nigga, your life afforded you the ability to live in the same city your whole life. His was a little more chaotic, and they lived a much more nomadic lifestyle.
Exactly.
You know, so you want to talk about where he wasn't from and just overlook all the shit that he did. Oh, I get it. You cut with hoe. You got bitch in your jeans and you can't help it. I'm saying my bad for not noticing off top, because that's what it boils down to. Like, how are you overlooking all this shit to talk about something this minute?
You know, how do you guys feel about Quincy Jones? How do you feel about Quincy Jones? Because he was a part of this Dear Mama thing too.
Well,
was he? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Quincy Jones always been he's always been with the movement.
Yeah, and I mean Pac was engaged to his daughter. Yeah, Kadada is Quincy Jones'
Right,
daughter.
I know that.
Yes.
I didn't know he was a part of the documentary though.
I didn't know he was either.
Yeah, I read the credits.
I didn't see his name on there, but that would make a certain amount of sense.
It's so important for I mean, it's got to be something to where we capture the our children right now when they're little, like when they're, as soon as they start going to school, this should be something, they should be being taught then to love themselves.
We talked about this though. You can't put the teaching of your children in the hands of a person who did not birth them. That kind of teaching has to take place in the home.
Okay, well, we need to start having something that teaches, if once you have a baby, it's never going to change if they don't know. Some people don't know. It's so goddamn stupid that they don't know that they can find out this information.
Well, it's not about the information. It's about not knowing. It's about not knowing your legacy. People refuse nowadays. If a single mother has a child out of wedlock, her whole focus is that some dude didn't step up, and that's the reason for misery and all that. Instead of understanding, there's rules to this shit. First of all, if you don't want to have babies out of wedlock and risk somebody leaving you while you're pregnant, you probably would want to marry them first. You know what I'm saying? Because that helps with those numbers. You know what I'm saying? Second of all,
part of that is on men, though. And what I mean by that is because there was an era in time where men were not ever going to be involved with a woman who had a child out of wedlock. And so what that did is it made it a more serious event in the minds of women. Because they knew, like, I'll never get a man if I do that.
Right.
Men have lowered that standard.
Men don't have any standards as of right now.
No, yeah. So a lot of work needs to be done on our end of the spectrum, and then it makes it so much easier to weed out women that respect men and women that don't. Because if niggas is firing at all cylinders, like if you still got a problem, you the problem. Because
it ain't no way men should be talking about, I don't care if my woman shows her ass, pussy, and hips and titties all on Instagram. I don't care.
That's Unfaded says they will be taught it's okay to be a girl when they're a boy and will never teach that shit. In pre-K, not allowing a child to truly define themselves. And I believe that too. Well, we know this from our own family. When Diesel was little, they wanted to put him under a class and stole his drawings and made money off that shit. And said that he was bad. When he wasn't bad, he was creative. And they made money off my brother when he was 5 years old. Okay.
Savi, you don't know if they made no money off that nigga's drawings. Can you stop?
I can't. At some point, I just have to. And there's the show, everyone. Thank you guys for joining us.
Who do you think them drawings is? Beavis and Butthead. That was Jabal.
Okay. The reason why I'm saying, like, let's focus on the point of what you were getting at, though.
Bring your ass back, nigga.
All right.
I'm right here. I had to just cool off for a minute.
This is kind of what I'm saying, though. Like, we have to understand that. Okay, I'm gonna make it a button. I need to make it a sound clip. I was just disagreeing with you.
Right.
God damn.
So I just want to say this. I don't know, does anybody have any closing remarks? Because I think we did an excellent job on the show today. I'm not silencing anybody. Is there anything else that you guys would like to cover?
I
Long
want to
live,
address
long
what she
live
was talking
Tupac,
about still.
Nipsey Hussle, all the Black Panthers, Huey P. Newton, all the ones that was killed in their sleep by the motherfucking FBI and crooked ass cops.
Yeah.
Long live them Black Panthers. I got that shit in
Yes.
my soul. I wish
Yeah.
there was an avenue like that available for me right now in today's
We
society.
are the avenue.
Yeah,
We are the avenue. Yeah.
No, I'm no.
So,
I think
can't put a face to
it's
nothing.
important that we all should arm ourselves. They're trying to take that. I'm with my brother on that one. They're trying to take that against it, away from us, that we shouldn't be able to be armed. And I don't personally don't own one, but I'm trying to get one, and I'm going to learn how to shoot it too. Okay.
well, see, and that's another reason why I go so heavily against
from
this.
our family and don't know how to shoot a gun.
I go
Because
so
you guys never
heavily
wanted to
against-
take me.
Hear me out. The reason why I go so heavily against the whole let's be criminals mentality is because you're basically giving your ability to freely purchase firearms
And
back to
defend
the
yourself.
government.
Yeah, and defend yourselves because
Yeah.
Sean Taylor.
The way they look at it is if you got a checkered past, your life is no longer worthy of being defended by you. You got to call 911 and hope we get there before your head gets blown off.
Pop Smoke.
It's not going to
Yeah.
happen. Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Now
And,
you
and,
now-
and
now
then
you-
you got these,
911.
and you
You
got
know?
these groups that are these militia groups that are making their own guns and bullets and ammunition and doing all kinds of stuff and burying it in the ground and having compounds and stuff. Okay, we need to have our own ammunition. We need to have some guns. We need to have some.
There's blacks doing that too, but it's just not deemed as cool by blacks. It's the criminal gun-toting style, mafioso, Al Capone is what's appealing to our black folks, not just having it and waiting for that shit to crack off.
Good point. Good point.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And a lot of them don't even know how to use it. Like you can just go on YouTube and look up gas station shooting in any city in America, and you see the way it's like no wonder the innocent lady crossed the gas station got shot in her neck. No wonder the little kid that was laying in their bed or watching TV on their couch in the apartment across the way got shot.
Because he literally wasn't looking when he shot.
No.
There's this one black girl who's
They're just not trained. They're not trained. They're not. They haven't been trained
Like,
properly.
thank God they're not trained. Look at what they'd be doing if they were.
You can't train. You can't. There's certain things, and this is what I mean. Like some of these dudes, I don't know. People they think if a man points a gun at another person and pulls the trigger, that makes him real. I know that that's not the case.
Yeah.
And when you see a person react physically the way they do in the middle of a shootout in some of these instances, I don't care what his homies think about him, what kind of stripes he got in his section. I just see bitch. I'm sorry. Because, like, what are you doing? Like, who are you shooting at? Do you even know? You're not even looking.
You just held the gun. You held the gun over the hood of the car and dumped wildly into the air without looking.
You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, man.
That's like the little boy that just got caught at school with this manufactured gun, and they had went and robbed the lady right up under the camera and drove off in the car in the person's name. Stupid.
That's another thing that our people got bad. The camera matters, nigga.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The camera
matters,
matters.
nigga.
Yeah.
You can't keep doing shit in front of a camera and think you ain't going to jail, nigga. Ain't nobody told you dumbass. Got the whole video on tape, nigga.
Exactly.
Right.
The camera is like God now, nigga. It
Yeah.
sees everything.
Yeah.
And like I said, if one of the street lights or the business, there's satellite cameras. They see everything is being done. Okay.
That's the biggest one, the one you just talked about. Because the satellite right now, if you outside shooting somebody right now, the satellite that is recording that actually seen it transpire. Now,
Look, nigga was looking at the satellite view of somebody's address one time, like just fucking around, and seeing, and it was an image of this nigga checking his mail.
Right.
I'm just saying, like,
you can type if you want to see something. You can type in that person's address and go back to a certain date, but you would just have to watch it and continue because they can't rewind it. But you can see something if you wanted to see something. So just as you could do that, just imagine what they can do.
Right. I don't gotta imagine. It's already been proven.
Yeah.
So can y'all close out on some Tupac?
What you mean?
Like when we close out on the show, can we close out on some Tupac?
Oh, that has to be like
prearranged. You have to have it saved to your phone.
Prearranged.
Oh, wow.
And I wouldn't be able to do it anyway because I think they hated so much on the energy that they just completely wiped out my whole goddamn Google Slides. I made shit while I was sitting right here and then still couldn't get it to come up on the computer. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Yeah, somebody watching us right now.
Oh, I'm sure they are. Watch on. Watch on, because this ain't nothing but the beginning.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. So, yeah. In closing, I want to say this because I'm trying to inject something that might give us a basis for our next show or an upcoming topic. We talked about distractions and shit that changes that need to be made. And we know that doing the same thing and expecting different results is basically the definition of insanity. And I think that there's some things that have been it's been interwoven in Black society that probably has stagnated us more than we realize. And that's something that I want to talk about upcoming, and we can discuss it a little further off the panel. I mean, amongst the panel after we end the show.
I got some on the plate.
Okay.
What's the topic though? I didn't catch the part that you were saying.
How can I say it? Okay, is it toxic of our people to continue to promote religion in our community when we notice that it has not yielded favorable results? At what point do we view that as toxic behavior? You know what I mean? So, yeah.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
We've been putting that off long enough. Eventually, we're going to have to cover it. Everybody for joining us for this episode of Four Corners Legacy Podcast. Thank you for all your comments. We appreciate you. Listen, like, and share.
That shit that'll make you up, chuck. Give your sour shit. Get the power done. In the state of Mexican voters, it's as it can vote, so we never rock power up. Niggas up, chuck. Give them sour guts. Niggas fucked up. Get the power done. In the state of Mexican voters, it's as it can vote, so we never rock power up. Nigga, first on. I'm the beat so low. When I burst off, leave a cloud of smoke. Like atomic explosion, sudden encroachment. Giving them lessons on how to choke them with a savage grip, like a pack of bits. They would banish this if they had a wish. But reality bites like a cobra that's striking this tension like rise was spinning kick. I be squashing shit with my confidence. Got me dropping these levels of consciousness. Getting hit by the diesel is lethal. The smashing new seat with the people they wanted this. So I'm acting up. Got a boisterous tone, so I'm rapping rough. Aiming platinum plus. Coming deep with T-Nutty and snack like a 44 mag ripping ass with my cannon bust. Like a honor sword, and you know his name. Crushing niggas foot like a hurricane. Call the dentist to ID my victims. Ain't no recognition. I burned it with turbo flame. Call it hot flow. I'm completely unstable like nitro. And I might blow like a package from Teddy Kaczynski. I'll come through the mail and suddenly explode. It's a cold price, but it's your life. They've been calling me crazy my whole life. I got stripes like a General Bison, go local like Tyson and flash like a strobe light. They done fucked up, get their souls up. It ain't no luck, fools is getting crushed. When I drop them for 42 stories, that ought to be gory. I figure that's good enough. Niggas up, chug, give them sour guts. Niggas fucked up, get the power done. In the state of electric convulsions, it says it can both, so we never rock power up. Niggas up, chug, give them sour guts. Niggas fucked up, get the power done. In the state of electric convulsions, it says it can both, so we never rock power up. Stepping up and I'm known for getting at them viciously. Snag love, bring it to you so convincingly. If you didn't heard me serve a word slam with terms and verbs, how I do it to them ain't no mystery. What the enigma is after all these years, I'm still fussing while I'm buzzing, cussing out of your ear. Ain't no stopping this shit I'm dropping, I'm keeping it popping in your direction with selection and confirming your fears. Watch out, no shit, duck, who's that nigga? You better lose the nigga. He's been on the pack of Uzi, nigga, to give you multiple contusions, nigga, fuck the confusion, nigga. Blow you right about your shoes, and nigga, you ain't the first to feel the burst of a nigga's words. It's like I fell up under a curse, cause I've been feeling like a villain, killing niggas with the muscle, the double cross. Cause niggas always crossing me first. I need my money from this rap shit drastically. So I'm plotting like my niggas dick dastardly. I'm at a store and just call me more, no food in my garden. So I'm running through my hometown smashing beats. Trying to snatch some cheese. I'm talking double XL.
Double XL like the magazine.
I didn't even know you still had that shit on me. That was
Hey, when I heard that levels of
Free
consciousness
lane.
verse, that bar of levels of consciousness, I said, oh, they don't even know.
Hey, who the fuck do you think I am? Who the fuck do you think I am?
Somebody end the broadcast. Somebody end the broadcast.
yeah, no doubt. Same time next week, y'all.
All right.
Right.